welcome to our City Commission work session of November 1st. Don't know why I took the glasses off, because I can't see without them. First really important thing is we want to call out Commissioner Tornga's birthday.
Ooh.
So we will be celebrating after the meeting if anybody wants to stick around and join us. So we'll call this meeting to order, and Nikki, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Absolutely, Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nikki. So, anybody out there watching, there's a little bit of an accident on the cut-through part of Milwaukee between Skinner and Main Street. You know how it curves, right? Big semi-truck.
Oh, no.
You know, I mean, he wasn't speeding or anything, but you know, when you go around that curve,
You gotta be.
and people are all parked there on both sides, and then another normal, tiny little car was coming through and sideswiped him. So yeah, it was blocking traffic. It's not blocking traffic anymore. And nobody was injured, but needless to say, that made me a little late as well, because I had to back up all the way down the road. But, you know, we might want to consider those big vehicles going down that road. I know PSTA bus uses it, and I know why they do it, for timing. But every time I see them, I try to pull myself aside and not even try to pass the darn thing, because it is quite narrow. So we might want to think about that in the future. Hope everybody had a great Halloween this weekend. I cannot believe just how packed downtown was the entire weekend. I mean, forget the little trick-or-treaters. I mean, that was adorable on Friday night. And by the way, you need to thank Commissioner Kynes, or Vice Mayor Kynes, for that Halloween happenings. That was something she fought for many years. You did.
Oh, you mean the Friday night?
Yeah.
Because the
Sorry, not Halloween. No,
happening.
sorry.
And
Trick or
which was amazing
treating.
too, by the way. That gets bigger and bigger.
Yes, my son was Little Red Riding Hood. My 24-year-old son was working the event, the haunted hayride, and the werewolf was chasing Little Red Riding Hood. And he later left the event and went and won a first. I will not tell you where he went, but he went somewhere and won first place costume contest. And a whole bunch of money and other things that I won't tell you that either. So yeah, it was a great weekend. Anyway, I guess we should get to our business, huh?
Right. No, but kudos to our staff.
Oh my God! I mean,
and City
these
Hall
events.
Staff, Friday night, City Hall staff, Nicole was out there and Antonella.
Oh, I
was out
saw
there.
Nicole's
They went all
outfit
out.
on the pictures.
She was out there till like 8, 9
Yeah, she
o'clock.
was.
Yeah.
And our ladder truck, was amazing.
I know.
right
Were
in the
they
middle of town.
throwing candy from that?
They were. I mean, obviously it was.
Yeah, dropping.
Yeah, it was
That
light
was
candy,
so
it wouldn't hurt
cool.
anybody.
Oh, that's
But it
That was so cool. It was just such a great weekend and kind of a. I mean, for Florida, it's really kind of an introduction to fall. Although I will tell you that it was hot this weekend, really, really hot. Blur had a costume contest, and then Bowser's had a whole doggy fundraising.
Witches were out.
The witches were out, but I was going to say,
Again,
what did they?
yeah.
Rescue Not Retail. That's what they were raising money for at Bowser's, and I got to judge a doggy costume contest as well as a human costume contest. Commissioner Gao and I were judging a human costume contest Saturday night at Blur, so it was
Were they
busy.
human? I don't know.
I don't know. They are.
It's a blur, right?
It's a blur.
But hey, I'm just going to say it out there again. Halloween happenings at the community center Saturday, which is our traditional, tried and true, gets better every year, was great, and it was great again. So
It looked great. Obviously I didn't go because we were judging costume contests someplace else. But you know what's really cool about Halloween happenings is you start to see new generations going. I mean, my son went there from this big and now he's there at this big. I saw a lot of my friends my younger friends taking their kids.
if you are bored in Dunedin, then you have an issue. There's just no reason, no matter what age, to be bored in Dunedin.
Very true.
We do have another before I forget, we do have another birthday coming up, which is Jennifer's. She won't be here for it, though.
No, I'm 21 again. Again and again and again.
She's going to
Well, we
Disney
haven't-
for her birthday.
So when do we have cake for you?
Well, that's what I was going to say. So, we have a short meeting Thursday, so don't make any plans after. We're going
Well, that sounds
to
good.
go celebrate a birthday.
All right, there we go.
Because we only have one
If I just
item.
turned 21, I can go out.
Yes, you can,
Yeah, right.
legally, and close to home.
Keep saying it, Jennifer, just
Bring
keep
your
saying it.
card, bring your card.
Bring your ID, that's
Bring your
right.
ID.
Okay. All right, presentations. We have the FRPA Corporate Support Award presentation. So Vince, please come forward.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Commissioners. Vince Gizzi, Parks and Recreation Director. I'd like to ask Duggan Cooley and Laney Sheets to come up to the podium with me this morning. And yes, it is wonderful being a child, youth, and family growing up in this city.
Yeah.
It really is. It was really rewarding seeing all the activities this whole weekend. And then Monday, kids are coming to your home trick-or-treating. So
we
eating a
had
lot of
last night,
candy.
too. Yeah.
So, okay. So I'd like to introduce Duggan Cooley. I know most of you already know him very well, CEO of Pinellas Community Foundation, and Laney Sheets, our Parks and Recreation Administration Superintendent. This morning, we'll be replaying our conference presentation of August 31st, 2022. Each August at the Florida Recreation and Parks Association, FRPA's annual conference in Orlando, the association recognizes outstanding work departments around the state in several categories. This year, our department submitted an application to recognize Duggan Cooley and the Pinellas Community Foundation for Corporate Sponsor Award for their outstanding fundraising efforts, which assisted the city and the county in acquiring the Gladys Douglas Preserve, $4.5 million worth. That is, in my 40-year career, I've never, ever seen that type of contribution. So, again, thank you. I would also like to recognize Laney for her outstanding work preparing and submitting the application to FRPA Awards Committee. Thank you, Laney. Jennifer and I drove to Orlando that morning to be part of the ceremony. Laney and several of our staff were already attending the conference and also in attendance at the banquet. I'd like to play now a short video from the conference highlighting the award presentation. Short video.
We are pleased to present the 2022 Florida Recreation and Park Association Awards, sponsored by Dominica Recreation Products. Taking the time to recognize agencies, partners, and individuals in the park and recreation profession that serve their communities with high standards and care is one way we celebrate outstanding service. Each of you do exceptional things each and every day in your communities, and we are honored to celebrate with you today. We now proudly present the 2022 FRPA Awards. The Corporate Support Award is presented to the corporation, foundation, nonprofit, or business entity which has made significant and consistent contribution to the parks, recreation, and leisure services field through sponsorship, creation or implementation of a program, project, or series of programs. On the southeast border of the city of Dunedin stands 44 acres of untouched natural Florida. The property was the homestead property of Gladys Douglas, widely known for her love of nature and philanthropy. Once widespread in the area, the crown jewel is the last known 2.7 acres of rosemary bald in Pinellas County. Upon Miss Douglas's passing, the property was fated to be lost as it was under contract to clear it for a residential development. The City of Dunedin and Pinellas County collectively wanted to save the property for conservation lands. Dunedin allocated $2 million and Pinellas County $3.5 million. However, the asking price was $10 million, which would require raising an additional $4.5 million in private donations. The cry for help from the community was loud and clear. A Facebook page quickly gained over 1,700 members. Concerned citizens volunteered their time to wave signs on the street corner to raise awareness. Duggan Cooley and the Pinellas Community Foundation heard the need and answered the call. The Pinellas Community Foundation, or PCF, stepped in and coordinated the community fundraising response. The foundation convened and coordinated with 5 environmental allies, including the Florida Native Plant Society, the Suncoast Sierra Club, WK Preservation Group, and Blue Green Connections. PCF worked with local governments, tracked down leads, created special gifting arrangements, and communicated with media partners. Within 3 short months, 1,100 community donors raised an unprecedented $4.5 million. This is quite the achievement. Duggan stated, "I am honored to live and work in a community that amid a global pandemic and seemingly at a moment's notice can marshal the resources necessary to save 44 acres of precious green space. The community's dream to acquire the Gladys Douglas Preserve is now a reality. The City of Dunedin is proud to nominate and recognize the Pinellas Community Foundation for their contributions for generations to come. Please help us in thanking the Pinellas Community Foundation for their commitment to parks in their community and welcome them to the front to accept the Corporate Support Award."
Oh, we're going to recognize you.
And I will go ahead and present again the Corporate Sponsor Award to Duggan Cooley and the Pinellas Community Foundation. Thank you so much. And also Lainey for putting this application together and helping with the video. Outstanding.
I wrote a few notes this morning. Figured we might as well just talk about a few good things. But first, to thank the city for your partnership on this, especially all the city council members, but especially Jennifer. It was a pleasure to work with Jennifer on this. She'd call me all the time, "Hey, talk to so-and-so, we got a call about this, track this down." And so it was a wonderful partnership with city administration as well. As the video said, this was a team effort. We worked with a number of environmental organizations. The Suncoast Sierra Club was one of them, Blue Green Connections from right here in Dunedin. We also had Nicole Matthews and her Preserve the Douglas Hackworth Property Facebook group that constantly put out information and made sure the community was aware. And then WK Preservation Group, they're working to preserve a piece of property near Tarpon Springs right now, but where they were involved in this project as well. I think the project really got a good sort of kickstart from private fundraising. Rebecca and Stu Showerman came in with the $2 million contribution toward the beginning of the private fundraising effort, and that sort of launched everything sort of from there and let people know, hey, this is worth doing, this is worth getting involved in. We received 1,100 unique contributions, but some large gifts from another $2 million gift from a donor to this day who wishes to remain anonymous. We had folks like Liz Murtaugh involved. Kevin Connell was involved in this. Nancy and David Billheimer made a wonderful contribution to this project, and over 1,100 other people. I think that's incredible and says something about the city, the effort, everybody working together on this. Still, all the work from Parks and Rec. At a moment's notice, I can call Vinny, and he'll show up on a Saturday morning and help give a tour and make sure that people know that this is a wonderful place, what the community has done to save the property. We appreciate your effort to also make sure that the lake next door is preserved. So now in the city of Dunedin is this beautiful over 100-acre preserve for generations to come. Media was a huge influence in this as well, and I think we owe a debt of gratitude to Tracy McManus from the Times, who kept this in the public's attention, helped make sure the public knew that this was going on. That was absolutely incredible, and I can't tell you how many people told me, "Oh, I read about it in the Times. I read about it online in the Times." I'm pretty sure that our other $2 million contribution was motivated by hearing that in the Times, even though it's something that those wonderful folks pass on a regular basis. But then also, thanks to Nikki, she made sure we figured out an agreement between this that would satisfy the state, the city, the county, us, private donors, made that work, and which is a feat unto itself, but did a fantastic job at that. So it's incredible the things that we can do when we work together. and when the cause is held and moved forward by so many people who care deeply about their community and about our environment. So thank you for letting us be a part of this. It's been a pleasure, and we appreciate the recognition, but it really it's to the community that stepped up to make this happen. They're the ones who made it work, so thank you.
Don't you go anywhere. Yeah, but Doug, you were certainly a facilitator for all the fundraising, and, you know, that wouldn't have happened if you didn't get behind the idea and reach out to your very large network of folks that want to be philanthropists or just give a little towards something that they believe in. So we couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you.
Certainly Nikki and Jennifer, and I also just want to thank the Hackworth family.
Yes.
Because Tracy wouldn't have jumped on this if the Hackworth family hadn't sort of stoked that fire and needled it a little bit, you know, and so I want to thank them, very grateful to them, and we're really excited about what's next. I know we're working hard on it. You want to say a few words over there, Jennifer?
Sure, absolutely. So just in terms of, you know, we've talked a lot about the Gladys Douglas property acquisition and then Jerry Lake, the adjacent Jerry Lake, and I think, you know, I don't need to repeat a lot of that, other than I think that as this is in our rearview mirror as far as the work effort goes, as far as raising the money goes, it truly was a once in a lifetime for everybody, for all of us up here, for PCF, for staff, and I think really it was a reputation of the Pinellas Community Foundation that really pushed it home as well. As a fair broker, as a you know, depository of the funds, and you know, folks weren't going to donate to some ambiguous, you know, charity. They were going to donate to something with a reputation, and the larger scale donors most certainly. You know, and with all the rules and regulations, and Duggan understood the tax implications and all those things that I did not understand. So you know, PCF was absolutely fundamental, and their reputation was fundamental to this effort. And so today, I think, is about the Pinellas Community Foundation and our partnership. And especially getting to know Duggan was fun too. It really was. You know, I look forward to that relationship in my career until you know, the end. I think I'm a little bit older than you are, but anyway. So
21.
Well, you do have a birthday.
That's right.
How much older are you?
Oh, just a little bit, but no, Duggan, thank you.
John, you're trying to.
Doug is.
Yeah, you got a birthday over there too, so I keep your mouth shut.
That's right. So, and looking forward to the opening, and I'm working with Vince right now. Our staff has done a fantastic job, working with the county as well. The county has fenced in the conservation area, and we're going to have a big party when we're ready to open it. But we want it to be perfect when it's time to open. So we're excited about that, and thank you, Duggan, for everything. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's coming along very well.
It is.
Been out
Yeah,
there, and
exciting.
Vince made sure that we took some donors out there, and it's coming along very nicely.
And I'm just going to turn to my colleagues, because I'm sure they have something that they would like to say. Vice Mayor?
Well, I mean, the GDP was just a huge effort, but I really do believe the PCF was really a core piece of it. As Jennifer said, you know, your reputation in the community, your ability to handle these big funds, and the mixture with the state, with the county, with the municipality, the private donors, you know, all the, you worked very hard with all the entities that stood up to help. So, you know, it's always a pleasure to work with you. I've really enjoyed working with you on other things, but you are truly an asset. PCF is a great asset to our community, and we really thank you for all your help.
You're welcome.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the Gladys Douglas Hackworth property, certainly, as we have seen, it's the gift that keeps giving. And all the recognitions that come with this gift are recognized, right? We already recognized the Native Plant Society, you know, the state of Florida recognized our Pinellas County chapter, and then within that recognized Michelle, Nicole, and Rebecca in their efforts to save this. And now you're being recognized, and it's all so well deserved. And for me personally, it was the Community Foundation for me is, what is this organization? What do they do? And I can only hope that your light is now bigger and more people know what you do. And hopefully from that, you will get contributors and involvement in things of that nature, because it is a wonderful, wonderful organization. Again, thank you for everything that you have done. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's all been said, but Gladys Douglas still will be the greatest accomplishment of the community for forever, really. It's just, when you save a 100-acre piece like this, I mean, you can't match that. But I did want to say something about you personally, Duggan, because, of course, Duggan and I, we knew each other from my prior world when I was Director of Health and Human Services for the Pinellas County. And, of course, I saw him in many roles, helping people, being a director in many roles. And it was always interesting, Duggan, because you were always the talk of people. This guy's, he's something different. He's something special. He's somebody who's going to make huge differences wherever he goes. And I think that you landed in such a great spot for this entire community, I mean, meaning the Pinellas County community. And you're doing great things. And what you did for us is, priceless for this.
Thank you. And my connection to the foundation, I mean, I had a connection before I started working there. We had received grants back when I was CEO of RCS, but really the seed for this got planted at Salon GW. I've gone there for probably the better part of 20 years, and that was the conversation that set off, hey, Pinellas Community Foundation, they might be looking for someone to run the foundation, so that's got a little nice Dunedin connection there too.
That's great. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Yes, I'll just accept what everyone else has said about you, and then I'd also like to make the comment, thank you for your consideration of Dunedin and your support of Dunedin. That was fantastic. And then, as you and I have laughingly talked about just recently, now we get to see a lot more of you, and that's great. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nikki, did you have anything you want to say?
I'm just, whenever you hear all of these, the summation of all of it, it sounds so incredible. It's one of those things where what happened in real life, it could have been a movie. It was so...
And it was very intense.
But we got to be a part of living this dream. And thank you for your kind words. Thank you for all of your hard work. It was great to work with such a team of professionals.
I echo those things. I don't know if we could handle another one. But, we certainly hope to continue to work with you on many other things. And, as we do get the park open, and please, we just say to our residents to be patient, because there's a lot of things that have happened since that, things get slow. But, everybody's working hard to at least get the gates open. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll be wonderful just to see the land and the preserve part. But, please make sure you're available when we have our grand opening, because we'll be saying all the same stuff. And we love you and want to work with you on future things, and certainly let us know how we can be a good partner to you.
Thank you very much. You all are excellent partners, and we have other projects going on right now too. So with the city and with the city as a partner. So thank you all for everything. And this has been an incredible honor to be a part of this, and to sort of be able to see this come together in a very special way. I think part of the magic recipe to this too is the city of Dunedin, the residents who care so greatly about their city are very involved, and that just makes this all the more special place right in the heart of Pinellas County.
It does, and when we open, you're going to get you and your people are going to get all kinds of gushy kudos. So,
For sure.
So hang on in there. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Do we have an estimated time on the opening?
January, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're working toward the interpretive signage right now. The path, Parks and Rec put in the path themselves, which is amazing. County is removing some of the invasive species, so we're looking at a January opening.
So January's going to be a big month.
Yes.
City Hall and
Yeah.
Gladys Douglas.
We thought we'd just do them both in the same, no, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
yeah. No, but it's awesome. January is a good month because you're starting the whole year
Yeah,
off with a
that's right.
bang. I like that. Okay, now we have our Veterans Day proclamation, and I will turn that over to Commissioner Tornga.
Thank you, Mayor. Today we have the commander, Rachel Hughes, if you come forward, please, and Rob Cozen. She's the commander of our VFW Post 2550. And I also just want to mention that we do have our American Legion post that we're, some of us are members of as well. And so we'll just recognize them as well, Post 275. So, Rob, you're representing that as well? You can, certainly. Thank you. Veterans Day is a very important proclamation. In fact, perhaps one of the highest that we have. So, Veterans Day 2021. Whereas President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11, 1919 as the first commemoration of Armistice Day, and whereas 102 days later our nation continues to honor our fallen heroes and commemorate their selfless sacrifices, and to honor our veterans who have courageously defended our country and who now volunteer as mentors, teachers, and counselors. And whereas, while tens of millions of Americans have served in the United States Armed Forces during the past century, we are reminded that the defense of freedom comes with great loss and sacrifice. And whereas, veterans' courage, dedication to duty, and love of country have made it possible for Americans to live in freedom. And whereas on this Veterans Day, we remember with the highest regard the bravery of a generation of Americans who fought with honor, and we salute the men and women who put their lives in danger to answer the call of duty. And whereas, as we give thanks to those who have served freedom's cause and salute the members of the armed forces, we also honor the men and women defending our nation today. Now, therefore, I, John Tornga, by virtue of the authority invested in the mayor of the city of Dunedin, Florida, and on behalf of this entire city commission and the city of Dunedin, do hereby proclaim Friday, November 11, 2022, as Veterans Day in Dunedin, and encourage everyone to join us at Edgewater Park for a Veterans Day ceremony at 11 o'clock, that's 11 a.m. or 1100 hours for the military, on November 11th, to honor our veterans and recognize the tradition of freedom they fought to preserve. If you would both come forward. Say a few words, please. You can go right over there.
First of all, before I say a couple of comments, I just have to offer a personal congratulations to Duggan and the PCF. I have a personal association with Dunedin that goes back 35 years, but I've only been a resident and a citizen for the last 4. Watching the incredible expansion and growth of this town, it is so wonderful, and I'm so proud to be part of something like this. You know, preserving open space when so many other things are closing is a great accomplishment. So Duggan, thank you and your group for everything that you have done for this town. It makes me proud to be a part of Dunedin. Veterans Day obviously is a very special day for all of us, and we are proud as the VFW and the Legion to have our name on this event. But I think it's important that I mention right from the beginning that this event never would have happened without the collaboration and the cooperation of the City of Dunedin, and particularly the Department of Parks and Recreation. Vince Gizzi, Jory Peterson, Danielle Teal have been absolutely remarkable in how much they have helped. From our first time that we sat down and discussed this event, they embraced it. They said whatever the city can do to make it happen. There are a lot of good events that happen around our area. Curlew always has a wonderful Veterans Day event and things like that. But given the character of this town, given the fact that when you drive into town, the first thing you see is this remarkable arch, celebrating the service of our veterans, there is no reason for veterans to go anywhere else than to our town to celebrate Veterans Day. So thank you to the city, to Vince, who I made a very special request to when we had our first meeting, just so you know. Normally during city events, it's always Vince's eloquent voice, behind the microphone. And I asked him, I said, just for this one time, given that this is a veterans event, let it be run by veterans. Let it be run by veterans. Let us run this event and see how it goes. And there wasn't a moment's hesitation. Vince absolutely gave his blessing to it and said whatever he can do and whatever his department can do to make this a success, they would do, and they have come through with it. So again, I'm hoping that all of you are going to be there on the 11th. There's going to be a lot of good speakers. There's going to be a lot of wonderful music. This is going to be not only a ceremony that honors the service of our veterans, but a celebration of their service to our community. And also one other thing, just to let you know, given what has happened in our town and in our state and our country over the last couple of years with a pandemic and now in Florida with this hurricane, there are other people in uniform that we're going to honor. Veterans Day historically is for people in military uniforms. But there are first responders and firefighters and police officers and public works and nurses, all of which wear uniforms that kept this country and this town going. So they are going to also be mentioned and honored during this Veterans Day event. So again, thank you for your time. We are honored by this proclamation, and we look forward to a special event. We hope to see you all on November 11th. Thank you.
I'd just like to say, excuse me, it's been an honor since I've been a commander to have a relationship with the city. You guys turn out to everything that we put on, and after the ceremony down at, if you'll just excuse me, after the ceremony at Edgewater Park, you're all welcome to come back. We're going to have hot dogs and hamburgers for lunch, and then at 4 o'clock we're going to roast a big pig and have all the roasted, and all the sides to it. And we're going to have Molly there.
I know what that means.
We're going to have Molly, our eagle, there. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for all you've done. Thank you for Rob for what you put on, and Commissioner, it's always good to see you, John, at the post and being a big supporter of the veterans, all of you. It's good to see you there. I apologize for my throat, and thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Next on our agenda is citizen input. Anybody wishing to come forward and speak to an item that is not already on the agenda, please feel free to do so. Seeing, hearing none.
How can you not love this community? I mean, it's hard to even go to action items after that.
I know.
Amazing.
Okay, so we have consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from September 13th and 27th. Board and committee appointments to the Board of Finance, Library Advisory Committee, the Military Veterans Advisory Committee, the Youth Advisory Committee. And there's an interlocal agreement providing for control of illicit discharges within Pinellas County, and a licensing agreement with Tax Sharp Media for the Kellogg Mansion imagery and videography. So are there any items to be pulled?
Yes, I want to pull the licensing agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
2D, anything else?
Do you see?
Okay. All right, so then can I have a motion to approve the part of the consent agenda, which is the minutes and the committee appointments?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, Commissioner Tornga and Vice Mayor Kynes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, so 2C, we have the illicit discharges within Pinellas County. Did you have questions, Jeff?
I got a question, but just so the residents understand, just a quick presentation or understanding of what this is.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice
Good
Mayor.
morning.
Commissioners, City Administration, Michelle Monteclaro, I'm the Stormwater Program Coordinator for the City of Dunedin. This permit is a requirement under our MS4 stormwater permit, established by the Environmental Protection Agency under the Clean Water Act. This agreement was enacted in 1994 and is renewed every 5 years. It is a renewal of the agreement through November 30th, 2027. This agreement is between Pinellas County, all the cities, and the Florida Department of Transportation, and establishes that each city is responsible for regulating and managing illicit discharges within their own jurisdiction.
Question?
Yeah, the question is what happens if we don't sign it?
If you don't sign it, then my understanding is that it would be more of an issue for us for meeting compliance with our stormwater permit.
Okay, all right. And that's fine. I was just reading this, and I think it's a great agreement, and I'm glad that it's here. But I was just kind of wondering why it's there, what happens if we don't, and if it helps us meet the compliance of other areas. And overall, that explains why it's important. So, thank you. That was it.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second?
Okay, Commissioner Gao
You can-
and Commissioner Torga.
Fine.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, and then we have the licensing agreement for Tack Sharp Media for the Kellogg Mansion imagery and videography. Did you have a question, or?
No, I just thought that, I know that Nikki worked on this. I know Phyllis has worked on it. I just thought maybe it would be sort of interesting to explain, what it is, how it got here. And so I thought Phyllis or Nikki could probably talk to this Tax Sharp agreement.
Great. So this is all in reference to the Kellogg Mansion exhibit experience that's at the library, funded by the Florida Humanities Grant. In preparation for this, actually, we partnered with Pinellas Community Foundation and Tax Sharp Media. So they have an agreement. The virtual experience that USF Libraries created consists of some of the videography and images from Tax Sharp Media. So our city attorney, Nikki Day, and her staff member, Hillary Ryan, worked with Tax Sharp to get the agreement so that these images can be used on our city website, on the library Kellogg Mansion Immersive Experience, and also within the display. So Tax Sharp Media has been a wonderful partner to work with, and we're excited that we have access to this beautiful videography and photography. And our exhibit opens up tomorrow, November 2nd. You can sign up for times to immerse yourself in the experience. And we have a webpage with lots of links and information about the whole project.
Thank you, Phyllis. And
Yeah.
I think that part of the reason to do this is that when it becomes a traveling exhibit.
Yes, so in the agreement, it does have that this can be displayed at other libraries, locations, so it will travel, the experience will travel virtually. So.
And, well, we hope that the whole exhibit can be taken to various locations.
Yes, so we're hoping to keep it for a year at the library, at the Dunedin Library, and then it will go on a tour around the state, so.
Work on that very hard.
Yes.
So the parties here, I was reading it, so the parties, it's the city, including the library and the Dunedin History Museum, correct?
Within it, and also Florida Humanities
And Florida
Grant,
Humanities.
and then also Pinellas Community Foundation. They are the conduit to actually pay for the imagery and videography. So another project that Duggan and Pinellas Community Foundation is
Worked
involved
very
in.
hard on, and Phyllis also worked very hard, and Nikki. Everybody got pulled into working hard, so we really thank everybody. Phyllis, are you are you getting some nice, are people signing up to?
So we've had a lot of calls on the project, so we are taking the registration. And then I did want to reference my staff, especially Anne Marie Nurnberger. She's been our curator librarian working on this. She's done an amazing job. And our staff is getting fully trained on using the equipment. So it's been a great project. But yes, we're really excited, and we're looking at ways how we can get our students involved. Our teen volunteers are going to be trained also, because technology is like innate in them, so they'll be able to assist us all with this project really great. So we're coordinating with our schools too, to get everyone involved in the project.
Phyllis has done a fantastic job
Yes,
as
she
well.
has.
She's really supported her staff and really worked hard on this exhibit.
And Anne Marie. I
Yeah,
mean, absolutely.
Fabulous.
Yes, and there will be a talk tonight at 6 p.m.
November 2nd, so tomorrow.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night at 6
Tomorrow night
p.m.
at 6 p.m.
Yes, so it's a Florida Humanities talk. Charisse Ponraj is going to be sharing about the project and the community involvement.
Okay, well, thank you all very much. Thank you for everything you worked on, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, well,
And
No,
we appreciate her efforts too. I mean, as well as Anne and Charisse, who you've worked with for a long time. And did you say the museum was involved in this contract?
They're
The
one of
advisory committees.
No, they're under the
Historic
contract.
Preservation Committee has been involved, and then the History Museum, obviously, they did their fundraiser event, and a lot of preservation. Blair Cooey from there has done a lot, and Vinny as well, so, and
Yeah.
a lot of research to help with it.
Absolutely. No, I just made a comment that, reading the contract, that those are some of the partners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you
So,
very much.
thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work on this project. Any other questions or comments?
Just thank you, Vice Mayor. And Phyllis, I don't know anything you don't do well.
Correct.
I know.
Absolutely.
We get tired of gushing on her.
I
I'm teasing.
can't
We
find any
never get
flaws,
tired of
though.
gushing on you.
I can't find any flaws.
Yeah, and thank you to Nikki and Hillary. They worked a lot with us on that,
Absolutely.
so
I mean-
appreciate it.
It's very different law. I mean, it's intellectual property, so Nikki, you sort of span the.
Well, I have a great team.
But still, I mean, you
That's
go
not
from
all
the,
me.
you
I
go
have a
from
great
the,
team.
you go from the GDP to intellectual property rights, and that's a huge span. So, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor Kynes and Commissioner Tornga. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All righty. All right, now we have action items. This is reviewing and approval of a negotiated lien reduction agreement for the property at 2717 Resnick Circle West. George?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, good morning. George Kinney on behalf of the Community Development Department. So this actually goes back a year now, believe it or not. But this will be the first negotiated agreement brought to you under the new resolution that was approved this past summer. But just by way of background quickly, back in October of 2021, we received an initial application for lien amnesty on behalf of Elena P. Ziegler at the property address that was mentioned in the amount of more than $500,000, $504,815.62. It was December of last year that we initially executed our staff memo to the city manager. It came with a hardship request, if you'll recall. And when we looked at the valuation of the property and the assessed value of the property, we rejected that hardship claim. And it was then in March 8 of 22 that the commission then authorized the city manager to negotiate what you would consider a reasonable lien reduction amount and bring back this negotiated recommendation, which I'll get to in a second. It was later, then in June of '22, that the City Commission adopted Resolution 2216, which extended the existing lien amnesty program and also made a few tweaks to it, including the ability to do a negotiated agreement, and also clarified a chart section for us as well. Pursuant to that newly adopted resolution, the applicant modified their requests to a release payment and a balance payment as permitted by the resolution. And staff indeed then found that consistent with the resolution and in agreement with the property owner and
Okay.
her representative.
Hang on a second, George. Sure. Can you do me a favor and close that door? This lady just parked there, and the sun is coming right into my eyes, and I can't see anything. Thank you. I know, that's what I was gonna do, and I thought, well, no.
I think we should vacate this building, 'cause
You think?
Yeah.
Don't take us off topic.
And tear it down, too.
So just very quickly to wrap up, Exhibit G does note the terms of that payment. The city attorney, Nikki, helped obviously us in developing this negotiated agreement and did recommend an outside closing date, which is part of the recommendation. So in summary, staff and I believe the city manager are recommending the following. It would be approval of this lien reduction request in the amount of 70%, with the balance due and payable within 90 days, or if listed for sale with a licensed realtor within the next 30 days upon sale of the property, providing the closing occurs within 9 months of such listing. And that due amount is roughly $154,000 that would be payable to the city as part of that sale. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, questions? All right, anybody from the public wish to come forward and speak to this item? All right, seeing or hearing none, can I have a motion to approve this?
I changed my mind. You do have a question?
Of course you do.
George?
I'm just teasing
Okay.
you.
So basically, from the history we've been given, this property sat with these violations for like 5 years.
They were absentee owners, and I think what happened, if, according to the applicants, what had happened was the husband was getting the notices and not sharing them necessarily with the wife. He passed away, and she didn't realize until later in the process that these were ongoing liens.
But the other side of the story is that in a really, really nice neighborhood, other neighbors had to endure this for many years with no response. So I just want to kind of put that out there, because obviously there's that whole other side of what lack of response does to a neighborhood and what it does to all the neighbors.
No, absolutely. Good point, Commissioner.
You know, it is a balance.
It's a balance.
It's a real balance, and, I guess I've always sort of thought that your property rights sort of end when you are affecting somebody else's property rights. When you're affecting somebody
Yeah.
else's property.
No,
So
very true. Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second.
Hey, Commissioner Franny and Vice Mayor Kynes, thank you. Any final comments? Thank you, Jennifer.
thank you.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, George. All right, and then we have the award of bid for our annual street repaving. That includes some stormwater things and that type of thing. Bruce,
Good morning, Commissioners,
Morning.
and happy birthday.
to everybody.
Had one myself last week.
Happy birthday.
Had a lot of them.
Uh-oh, another excuse for cake.
The item before you today is the award of the fiscal year 2023 mill and overlay contract. The low bid was from Gator Grading and Paving LLC of Palmetto, Florida, in the amount of $1,324,077.50. Gator has done work for the city previously in the milling program, paving program 2 years ago. Funds for this project comes out of your fiscal year 23 budget. In addition, you budget a collective total of $1.2 million. 200 of that was from the stormwater program for the gutters and drainage. And so the remaining funds came from what was remaining in your 22 budget.
So 22, not 23.
Yes, as actually the bid was let
Gotcha.
in 22, but we're using 23 and remaining 22 budgets carried forward, correct.
okay.
So our recommendation to you is to approve the award to Gator Grading and Paving.
Okay. Questions?
Yes, Mayor, if I can. My street's in there, so thank you very much. Very excited. And I know
You'll
that
never be in there.
a lot of these streets are your certainly residential streets, but I know that we also have, I think Patricia Avenue is in there, and that's more of a collector type of road. And my thoughts are on multimodal. And is there, I believe at one time, and my memory is a little vague on this, I'd asked if it could be budgeted that there could be some sort of multimodal, whether it's paint, charros, whatever it is, to acknowledge that those are multimodal streets. And just wanted to know if that is part of the Patricia Avenue.
It is not. This is just, at this point, it's just a, resurfacing of the existing streets. The only thing that isn't here, I'll point out to you, there's work to be done at the Patricia and 580 intersection. And so there's work going on where that island that's in Patricia is going to be reconstructed. So we have included once that work's done, to go in and redo the paving for that short section. That's going to be dependent on that construction bid getting out and being done in time for this. So while it doesn't address what you've indicated, but just did want to point that out, that we're trying to merge those two projects, and it remains to be seen if the timing will work on that. If it's not, and the construction goes forward, we'll come back in the next pavement program and resurface that street, that portion of the street.
Okay, so when it comes to things like my request, is this the right place to have that request, or is that somewhere else?
I believe it's somewhere else. So when we decide what we're going to make changes to various streets, whether you're going to do complete streets is an example. One, they're looking at that on, I believe it's Beltrees. So we kind of know when those projects are going on, any changes to 580, all that comes into play. So we want to, from a paving program standpoint, any physical changes you're going to make to the street that's going to affect that, we will come in after that. We don't want to go in and pave a street and then have that work to go forward. So they came in, and Keith, you can add to that, but we work hand in hand with any planning efforts to, for traffic control and other changes to the streets themselves.
Before you say anything, Keith, can I just clarify, when you refer to Patricia, are you talking about Patricia in your neighborhood?
Well,
Because that's what I thought you were referring to.
I saw it as part of one of the streets during the review, and I was actually looking forward to, I think it wasn't in my neighborhood. It was, because that would be Patricia, that's more residential. That wouldn't.
Right, but we do have a bike path, the bike master plan went into the multimodal, but we did have that kind of thing where you have that painted stuff.
Right.
And I think it's actually in the residential area. It may not be down by your street. It might be farther south.
More Patricia.
I don't know, but I'm just trying to clarify what you were referring to. Which area were you referring to?
I can
Because
even
I
just
think
make
it's
it a little
already
more
there.
generic than any road that isn't residential, unless it is part of the bike plan or multimodal, to where it would seem appropriate, even in a residential area, to have those. And what kind of brought this to mind at all was, one, my focus on multimodal, but when Edgewater to Broadway was repaved, and they put all those charros down, and it was wonderful. And so I'm hoping that that is kind of a kickstart throughout the
Yeah.
city to start to do that.
I think what you're alluding to is what Bruce and engineering are putting before you today is the mill resurfacing program based on the software program that we have today. I think to address your concerns, Commissioner, I think what we can do is we can share what's coming up on the street resurfacing program with George and Francis as far as the multimodal program to make sure we don't misstep anything that's in that program going forward. Whether it's Patricia Avenue or any of the streets, whether it's with the bicycle plan or anything that's in Francis's wheelhouse.
Well, if we get our, I don't know what the heck we're calling it today, our mobility manager, that'll all be coordinated.
Transportation.
Planner.
But we've been waiting for a long time for that position. No disrespect to the city, and I know that there's all kinds of labor issues and stuff, but I don't know that we can wait for some stuff. And just,
No, and especially if something's just gonna be painted on a road. If something's just getting painted on a road, like it's no different than a center line, then, I mean, that, I would think that would automatically be a part of the paving process.
If I may, Mayor, I'd like to work with staff on this particular request. And as far as the coordination goes, with our planning division and community development, as far as the bikeway program goes and micro-mobility, I think that before we move forward with these bids, we need to look at what exactly, what's in that plan. This particular mill and overlay is a portion of Patricia, from Sumar to Idlewild, just north of Idlewild. So I'm not sure how appropriate it would be, when I look at it, it's page 2 of your attachment, to have half of that
I was looking at.
with chicanes and half not.
But I
So-
do think that they already have something on it from our old bicycle plan. I don't remember exactly on that part of Patricia where it is, but there is something. Our bike path off of Pinehurst goes down either Idlewild or McFarland, I don't know, one of those, and does go up. Patricia, the residential Patricia, not the.
Right.
So that's why I was trying to clarify with you if that's what you were referring to.
Yeah, so I'd like to look into that.
Sure.
Move forward with the bid, because we need to get this done. But, the Commissioner brings up a very good point, and I'd like to pursue it.
Sure.
But this is Patricia Corridor. I mean, this is.
No.
That's
No.
page, I think that's page 10 or something. I don't have my.
It's right here.
laptop, but
See, it's right here, but I'm looking at.
There's two
From
little
Union,
pieces.
yeah, there's two little pieces,
Yeah, but no,
it's
what they're saying, that the dark line is what they're paving.
correct.
And that's in the
past
neighborhood.
Virginia Street, and before you get to Main, right there.
That's just one small portion, Vice Mayor.
Right.
There's a portion north of that as well.
That
Oh, I
Patricia.
got you,
Yes.
okay, that Patricia.
Yeah.
We got a lot of Patricias, right? Can be confusing.
I love a good patty.
Ah, oh my.
Never mind, it was a joke. Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing or hearing none, come back to the commission. Can I have a motion to approve this bid?
so moved.
Second.
Commissioner Gao and Commissioner Tornga. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Sorry, I forgot to ask for comments.
Oh, you mean from commissioners?
Right. Did anybody have anything they wanted to say? Thank you for bringing that forward, Commissioner Gao.
Well, I mean, I do want to say, I thought that was really interesting in what you're saying, and I think what Keith stood up and said is that when you begin these projects, how are they intertwined so that you don't miss the mobility part? Is that correct?
That's what I would think. It seems logical that if you're going to repave something,
That everything, you have all the different
Right.
tendrils.
Right.
Okay.
I'd like to just make one comment about the, I think it's page, the other Patricia, the main.
Yeah, I didn't know which one he was talking about.
Yeah, so you were kind of talking about that and that center part that we're waiting to do later. Just I'd like to make a comment. I assumed that was, it was set aside not to do that now. I assume that is there for not allowing anybody to get into any left turn into the big shopping mall there. And so I think that's probably why it's like that, but I don't know. And so maybe when you guys do that, if you could just include that as to why it's set up like that. I mean, in other words, you could have a double turn lane there, which you probably wouldn't want to have, et cetera. But if you would just comment about that when that comes up, I'd appreciate it.
We will.
Thank you.
We will. Just a following thing. I know you're supposed to be quiet when you got to go, but we do send out all our plans to everybody and within the city. I think we need to maybe revisit this, but so we get comments on that. So like I mentioned earlier, there was some discussion about a complete street. Just to give you an example, there was a complete street discussion on Beltrees from Edgewater. When we heard about that, that was a road, by the way, or a section that was needing to be paved at this point, and so we held off on that to let that develop a little further. So we are really looking to make sure our coordination between the utilities department, building, we don't want to put road in and they have to drop a pipe. So we're doing focused on that quite a bit.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a request. When you guys can send us the priority list for the brick streets, obviously Santa Barbara, which actually does impact me, but I know as soon as we start that project, there'll be some questions because there's certainly some other areas, especially along that long street, that, need to be done. So I'm just kind of, if we could get the list of how that priority list will run on the brick streets, that would be great. Because I'm sure I'll get questions.
We'll put that together. If I may, we had expected to go out with the bid at the beginning of this month, for the Santa Barbara section. That's what we're working on right now from San Salvador south. Yet we've just been delayed in getting the plans are done. We just have to do a few minor changes. We haven't been able to finalize the bid specifications. So that I heard today we have more access. So we my hope is we'll get that out this month. And let me just point out one of the things I think, if I may, struggle with a little bit is finding bricks. As you can, we asked everybody we knew, Pinellas County, Largo, etc. No one's giving up bricks. And then we've searched for. And we don't have any that match ourselves. So bottom line is we've come across a vendor that tarpon is used, but at the end of the day, and we've relied upon tarpon. They've done a few of these. They're going out again. At the end of the day, what you typically will see if you go up there, you utilize everything that you have. There's a certain percentage of loss of brick, and we're going to in the contract purchase what we think will be replacement. They'll look a little different. They don't necessarily make them the same size as you're seeing back. Some of these bricks are 60, 70, 100 years old. Yeah. So there'll be a little difference in coloration, a little bit of size, but the good news is you'll have a nice smooth road. So we'll get you up to speed again. We hope to go out for the bid this month.
Were you able, I mean, I know that there were bricks for sale from the Kellogg. I mean, they had bricks. Were you able to get any of those bricks, or?
We purchased all the available brick.
That's good.
That was at the Kellogg Mansion. Now, you have to remember, like Bruce said, a lot of those brick weren't street brick. Mm-hmm. They were pavers, but we still purchased those.
That's wonderful. So that helped your store. I mean, I do understand that, I've been reading and a lot, like Tampa is looking for bricks. So, I do understand it's
yeah, Santa Barbara is a different, it's more like a boulevard. And it does have some heavy truck traffic. So would that be an ideal spot for the Kellogg type brick? I would recommend to Bruce and to engineering, that's not the place for it. Side streets like here, Wood, Scotland, where, you know, the width of the road's not as great, I would probably recommend, you know, with the good base material, yes. You know, but sitting on top of clay out on Santa Barbara, absolutely
No,
not.
I mean, I do understand. I sort of wonder, is there, are big trucks supposed to be on that street? I mean, it's a residential street.
Well, you know, we had this discussion years ago, even downsizing the solid waste vehicles. You know, to go to a rear packer back like we had years ago instead of, you know, the one-on trucks. But that's just regulating our vehicles. We can't, you know, unless the commission decides to do it.
Well, don't the same trucks go down Scotland as go down Santa Barbara? I mean, the same trucks go down Scotland that go on Santa Barbara, right? I mean, in terms of the...
But you're dealing with different base material.
Right, but that's part of why it's not going to be cheap to fix Santa Barbara because of the baseline under it. But that's part of what we're doing is fixing it, right?
The clay.
Right, okay. Right, just want to be clear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe, so if you had that discussion again, maybe y'all want to talk about it
Well,
someday.
but again, that's just dealing with the solid
Right.
waste vehicles. You know, you have delivery trucks, you have moving trucks. Every time you have reconstruction, somebody sells a house, wants to flip it, you know,
Yeah.
we're dealing with the contractors.
But, yeah, you drew the comparison. So the only comment I'm saying is in the regard where you drew the comparison, I don't see any difference between Scotland and Santa Barbara in terms of the types of trucks that go down there. I mean, really.
No.
I mean, and you're getting big houses built on Scotland just like you are in Santa Barbara,
No,
so.
it's
That's my
just
point,
wood
yeah.
material.
Right, so I just think the same would be true of both streets.
Is there a need to put load maximums on Santa Barbara?
Well, that's sort of what, you know, you all can discuss maybe.
Well, it's like those construction trucks. I mean, what are you gonna do if you're gonna build a house? The equipment you need is the equipment you need. I mean, what are you gonna do? Drop it in with a Army helicopter? I mean, that's the problem.
Well,
That's the problem, and now, do those construction companies become very abusive about it? Hell yeah, they do.
look, I'm telling you what, we had street signs saying no trucks down here, lights, you know, everything blazing, and I mean,
They came anyway.
it just, yeah. I mean, unless you're literally gonna police it like 24/7.
We're building with the idea that the current vehicles can
Yeah,
access
I
it without
think that's the
damage.
reality of the new world. You know, you've got to have them up to the,
And then like if you've got a moving, you know, a semi with a moving company, moving somebody in, which you might likely need with some of those houses are pretty big. If you're moving into one, you're gonna need a semi truck to fill it. So,
Well, it's,
but yeah, I wish it was policed. I mean, I wish we could actually
It's
do
not
that.
I don't know that I want to cater to those building those big homes, so we have to allow those big semi-trailers. I'd rather go, well, it sucks to be you need a smaller moving in.
Good for you, Jeff.
And multiple trips, yeah.
well, I do think it's
Well,
worth,
and maybe that
it's worthy of
is.
discussion, but it's only worthy of discussion if we're willing to follow the rules ourselves, so. You know, because you're not going to get any kind of adherence or accountability if our trucks are just as heavy as what's coming down there for construction, because you're never going to be able to prove what truck did what. So if, you know, if we lower the weight limit
But
and
we
we
do
have with
need
the
to think it
trucks,
through.
then we could actually set limits and we could check and see if damage is done and hold somebody accountable. I mean, and that's worthy of discussion. I don't disagree with that.
but it is, I mean, I think it's worthy of discussion. I think it's it's a multi-layered issue. You know,
It is.
you're gonna have to
Yeah,
think about.
we
and
we
so-
have to be realistic.
Right, but I do think it's worthy of discussing.
Well, what I want to say is how excited I am that we're spending $1.2 million on street work.
Yes.
Because
1.3.
guess what? It used to be 450,000, just a couple years ago. Right, but and then it went down to 350. But I mean, the highest we would ever go is like 550 if we moved a street up. So we have doubled and a half the amount of money that we're investing in our infrastructure. And I think that's the main message we want to be sending, because that's really important. We believe in our infrastructure. I mean, look, you can be a great city, but as Commissioner Franny always says, if your toilets don't flush and your streets have potholes, what are you? You know, that's just the basic stuff that we should be really good at. And so I'm really proud that this commission has made this an annual investment of right around $1 million every year, which is double what we were spending before. So that's the good news.
And Mayor, if I may, it is wonderful news that we're spending that much on infrastructure. But I will say, and we've discussed it here this morning, that the main reason we're spending this much is because of the weight of the vehicles. And if we focus more on equitable forms of transportation, or golf carts, bicycles, pedestrians, that lowers the weight on our streets, which then reduces the amount of money we have to spend on infrastructure. Or we could divert some of that money towards multimodal transportation and or public transit.
And I don't disagree with you. And I think once we catch up, you know, because we do have some catching up to do. Nobody needs to get up to the microphone, but just nod your head. We do have to have some catching up to do, I know, because we did such a low amount for so many years.
Was that a call for public comment?
No, I'm looking at the staff.
That's a call for
That's
no
a call.
comments.
We don't need to, you know.
Move on.
But we do have some catching up to do. I mean, I can look at my own street. I know it needs to be paved. Yeah, drive down my street, Keith. You know where I live. It's a little bit of a mess. But it's been that way ever since I've lived there. So, I mean, I'm used to it. I never say anything about it. But anyway, I do think we have catching up to do. And at some point, Jorge or Keith or Bruce, y'all will report to us when you feel like we've, besides the brick part of it, because that's a whole different story, you know, kind of when we're sort of, now we're just in the queue. We're just maintaining, we're not trying to catch up. It would be nice to know when that point comes, because then I think, you know, it's really important. Not that we're not going to do it until we catch up. I'm not saying that, so don't panic down there. But I mean, it would be nice to understand that, because also in that $1 million, whatever we're investing, as we have caught up, maybe part of the $1 million is just doing the maintenance, and the other part of the $1 million is adding all of these other things that we want to do. But we can't get to that until we do some catch-up. So, there you go. Okay, we have a proposed agenda for November 15th, which will be Vice Mayor Kine's last meeting.
It will.
It
Yes,
will.
it will.
It will. Anybody have any?
Did we vote?
Yeah, we did. We did our comments after the vote.
Yeah, that was,
Thank you.
It was backwards. I was really trying to get out of the comments, is what I was trying to do.
you don't need to
thought he meant,
re-vote.
did
It
we
was
vote on it
commissioner
being
comments. She
commissioner?
invited
No,
for
no,
public
no,
comment.
If we voted or not.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
I know, it's hard.
I don't
Well,
think
then
we
there
did vote on
were,
that.
Yeah, I don't think we did.
there were lengthy comments.
No,
That was the-
Never mind, Mayor,
On
I'm
the
sorry.
17th, I mean, we're
Yeah, we
no
canceled
longer
we
having
canceled
a
the 17th. No, we're just doing the 15th, and just FYI to anybody, I mean, I already did speak with Rebecca in the future that we shouldn't have commission meetings after an election until people are sworn in. And in the past, we don't.
See, I didn't remember that.
I didn't
Oh,
remember
no.
that either.
It just
Because
worked out.
We used to have a changing of the guard, and the changing of the
that's
guard
the
was the same
21st.
night.
That's the-
And you'd have, half the agenda was old business, because
Yeah.
you kind of didn't want to bring
You're
people.
talking
and
about
half was new.
16 years ago. We stopped
I-
doing that.
Okay.
So that you wouldn't have
Right.
that, the awkwardness of it.
Okay, I only brought it up because the basic principle still applies. Sometimes you have some old business that actually makes no sense to bring a new commission into, and you just need to finalize it. And then you have your new business, which makes no sense to have a lame duck on to, you know.
Don't call me.
I
a
was
quack.
wondering when you were going to be
So-
called
I knew I was
out.
gonna get in trouble.
So-
It's coming out of my mouth.
So let me,
Anyway, I'm fine
I
either
know,
way,
but
though.
let
I'm
me,
just
let me
laying out
just,
the facts.
I know, but let me just say also that instead of doing it that way, our team has addressed that before it even gets on an agenda. They're looking at that before it gets there. And then we save our swearing-in night for a celebration versus a meeting. And usually the way our election has been later, is like a week later this year, just because of where that first Tuesday falls. Usually the first Tuesday is in the week of the 1st.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I'm sorry, Deborah, for calling you late.
And so,
came out, I knew
and
this
so
was a
our
mistake.
swearing in is usually earlier than the 21st, is my point. It all moves up, so it doesn't usually matter. This year it happened to fall later, and our meeting schedule was different. So
Well, I would
if it's a
imagine-
year of an election, we try not to have a meeting between the election and the swearing in.
But I would imagine that, you can wrap up old business. That's sort of what we'll be doing on the
Before that even is a
15th,
factor, yeah.
Oh, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, so,
I'm good.
Well, so I have an item
For the
agenda.
15th?
Yes.
Okay.
For the 15th. Well, it's not my item, but I elected to be the one to bring it forward because it comes from legal. So as you know, the city has been represented in the case filed by Mr. William Gay, by Deborah Babnucher out of the Garganese Weiss firm in Orlando. They have negotiated a settlement agreement contingent on your approval, and I'd like to place that on your agenda for, as an action item for the 15th.
Okey-doke.
okay.
Thank you. That's the only item that I have.
All right, so with that addition, can I have a motion to approve the November 15th agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Kynes and Commissioner Franny. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, do we want to take a quick break and then we'll jump on mental health issues?
Yeah.
I'm looking at you. All right, take a couple minutes of a break.
I'm getting a hard time today between being a lame duck and mental health.
I didn't mean it. I'm
Gotta see. All right, so now we're under our workshop items or informational items. And, some time back, we had asked for an update on our mental health resources, given that, it was a big thing discussed from the community during the public input sessions for the American Rescue Plan Act funding that we received and what we might spend money on. And do you want to do any more of an opening?
No, Mayor, thank you. I think Nicole's put together a very good presentation. We have some guests here today, which we very much appreciate you joining us. And with that, hand it over
We
to
just made
Nicole.
them hang around a lot longer than they needed. Sorry about that.
They were evaluating us, so
Yeah.
no problem, right?
We have a very lighthearted mental health situation going on up here.
I heard they want to talk to us individually.
Yeah.
You're going to take more time with John over here, though, right?
That's why I was spending time in the back making sure they were identified.
Okay, Nicole, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Nicole Delfino here, Assistant to the City Manager. And today I have several guests with us that will be contributing to the presentation. Dr. Smalling, Sergeant Bowman from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and then Monica Davis, a team lead at Personal Enrichment through Mental Health Services. We will just get started.
Okay, welcome.
Can we get a presentation on the screen? Hello.
There we go.
He's looking at you.
Okay.
He's giving you the thumbs up.
All right, awesome. All right, so as we move through this, I'm actually going to have Monica take the section on her organization and give you some information on those resources. And then Sergeant Bowman will go over some of the Sheriff's Office. And then Dr. Smalling and myself will kind of go over some of the things that we have and then what we will be doing moving forward. And then, of course, questions. So without further ado, Monica Davis, here from Pinellas County.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I work for the Mobile Crisis Response Team for PIMS. A little bit about my organization as a whole. PIMS, we are a inpatient psychiatric facility. We have several community resources, outpatient community resources such as our FSI program, the Mobile Crisis Response Team, which we'll go over those a little later in the slide. But our inpatient facility is an accredited program by CARF. We're licensed by the Department of Children and Family. We are a nonprofit organization, and we offer behavior health services both inpatient and outpatient setting. We service all age groups from 100 to 4 years old, so we service all ages in the community. So our mobile crisis program, which is me, and I have my lovely new hire, Lauren, who's here with me.
Hi, welcome.
So mobile crisis, we are a dispatch program. We do respond out to the home. We are that go-between before you call 911 and that inpatient services. So we try to de-escalate. And what we do, we have therapists that will respond out to the home. We'll try to de-escalate, help the family divert that crisis, help de-escalate, be that person to talk to, kind of like that lending ear. If we feel that they don't meet inpatient criteria or that 911 immediate response, we help them get connection to some services. We safety plan, just provide that extra support. We work with all ages. It used to be 25 and under. Now we work with all ages, so anyone can call. If someone is calling on behalf of an adult, we have to have that adult permission. We are a voluntary program, so if we do get out there and they don't want to talk to us, they don't want our services, we have to leave the premises, and then that's when we utilize other resources in the county, other mental health units under the law enforcement umbrella. We are a 24/7 program. I tell everybody we're like AMSCOT. We're open 7 days a week, 24/7. Holidays, there's always someone on call. Whenever you call, someone is going to answer. So that is us. Then we have the suicide hotline, which is our 988 number that is answered at our inpatient facility. There's that is mainly if someone is just kind of feeling a little down, they need to vent, they're not in crisis, and they don't need us, they can have someone that they can talk to. Usually, the longest I've heard is about an hour. They have that undivided attention where they can call, speak to someone, hey, I'm having some issues with my parents, rough day at work, so you have that extra support there. We have the JARF program, which is if we have a juvenile that comes in under the influence, they kind of need to, lack of a better term, kind of sleep it off, somewhere safe. The family just doesn't know how to handle it right then and there. We can keep an eye on them for 24 hours, I think, 24 hours to 72 hours. So we have that. It's like a substance abuse and alcohol treatment. Then we have the PIC, the Pinellas Integrated Alliance, which we work hand in hand with Sergeant Bowman. So we have a group of therapists, social workers, and case managers that work alongside with the mental health unit, and they go out, they follow up with the clients on their caseload and provide the extra support and mental health services. Our other community resources is the IMPACT team, which they're another crisis intervention team. They work with adults, they provide crisis intervention and diversion, and they go out in the home and the community also. They help our clients who have a high recidivism on the unit. So usually if they're looking for housing, they help them with kind of finding housing, if they need a cell phone, those kind of things, recovery, wellness. So they usually keep track of them, just provide that, again, that extra level of care, that wraparound services. Our CAT team is for high recidivism youth. Those are some very intensive services. They have a therapist, case manager. They have a mentor that goes in a home, sees them, I think, 3 times a week. They see a psychiatrist. They do evaluation, case management, mentor, like I said, mentor. They go to the school, make sure they're going to school. So those are some really intensive services, like for some very high-risk individuals. Usually, like I say, they're under 18 and under. Then we have our system navigation. You have different navigators. You have the regular system navigators, which helps with financial assistance. So if someone is in financial crisis and they need help with paying their light bill, groceries, rent, moving into a new place, you have that. Then you have the school navigators, which are in the home, which are in the schools. So the school can refer them or a social worker. The family's homeless. They can help them with getting shelter. Again, those same things, moving into a home, paying rent, providing clothes, groceries, anything, any financial assistance. Our BNET program is another therapy program within a home, and you have to have a certain insurance. I think it's Florida Kid Care, and they have in-home counseling, case management, and psychiatric services. They're not as intensive as the CAT team, but they're that step under, so they have that extra level of support for the kid and the family. Our home navigation, again, works with the Sheriff's Department. Those are for like our youth offenders to make sure that if they're on probation, they stay on the straight and narrow, they're going to school, they provide services, help them get connected to those services again for counseling and just those wraparound services. So they usually work with juvenile delinquents who have a criminal record, try to help them get on the right track. And then the FSI program, again, is like the systems navigator. They help with rent assistance, groceries. The United Way program helps that family to build a savings account, buy their first home. So they're more of helping that family get stable, work on a savings account, and buying their first home. So it's kind of like a transition from the FSI program to that next step. Okay, now you're settled. Let's help you purchase your first home. Let's show you how to build a savings account. Let's show you how to move forward where you're not in that previous predicament. And they do a lot of food pantries, educational classes, parenting classes. Then we have our partnerships, which we work hand in hand with, is the Suncoast centers. We have some therapists on the Suncoast side that are MCRT therapists. The Suncoast centers, we do referrals to them for counseling. They offer a variety of counseling. They offer trauma services, which is free to clients. So if they have any traumatic or trauma in their background, we can do a referral, and those services are free. They have a child advocacy program, the sexual assault services. They have suicide prevention. I'm on the suicide prevention panel, so we work on that. We do workshops. We hold events to help with that. There's a lot of community events. We have the TSF program, which builds around, it's free. It focuses on the parent and giving them parenting to keep the kid in the home, that where they're not going into the DCF system. We have the IFS program, which is very intensive. They do in-home therapy. They have on-call, and it's structured around the family.
Thank you, Monica, for all of that.
That's a lot of stuff.
It is,
Sorry.
It is a lot of stuff, and there's a lot more. I wanted to include, when I started doing some research, found the PEMS organization, and there's a lot of interconnectivity amongst the organizations, and as you'll see moving forward. But another one, just to, as we talked about mental health and youth, also, obviously, there were a lot of programs there. But the JWB addresses children's mental health prevention and early intervention and treatment. They do a lot of education, events, programming. They do handle this mobile crisis support, and then obviously for what the JWB is known for as far as school success and readiness and early childhood development. They work in the communities and neighborhoods to address child hunger, outreach, and then strengthening those communities. There are two other organizations I just wanted to call attention to. These are certainly not, I couldn't put every organization, but we identified some of the bigger organizations that serve all of Pinellas County and offer various services. For Directions for Living, I've included, obviously, their website links, this one with locations in Clearwater and Largo. Directions for Living provides adult and child therapy and psychiatry. They partner with the Pinellas County Department of Health for counseling, case management, and psychiatric services. They have a telehealth remote access for crisis evaluation. They also collaborate with JWB and provide group therapy and support groups, for instance, the LGBTQ, for families who have experienced suicide loss, and also veteran groups. They provide wraparound services for families and children for mentoring and engagement. And then they also have some housing programs, which mostly deals with homeless or in prevention of homeless, and then being able to move those people into either homes or to decrease the likelihood of homelessness. For NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Again, they also provide support groups. They have several programs, some of which are free. There's an Evolve group. It's mental health education program that's delivered in 6 sessions that's peer-led for middle and high schoolers. They have a Family to Family, which provides free 8-session education for family members and caregivers living with those that have mental illness. And they have several other programs that are on their website. They actually work with your organization as well. It says Peers in Recovery Mentorship Training Program, a Crisis Intervention Team, and then Wellness Recovery Action Plan to provide wellness resources. And for each of these organizations, they have Facebook pages. They have very robust websites with a lot of information, contacts, phone numbers, people's names, actually people you can call and get a hold of. I just wanted to give this example of an event. I'm talking with the JWB. They said, yeah, we actually have this coming up. And as you can see, they've got their partnership there with NAMI. But this is coming up just in a few days, preventing suicide for youth. So now we will move on to Sergeant Bowman, and she will go over some of the things that Pinellas County does here for our residents.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for having me here. So when law enforcement gets called out to a mental health-related call for service or a person in crisis, more than likely what we're going to do is evaluate for a Baker Act. If any of you are not familiar with the Baker Act, it's under Florida Statute 394, and it lets law enforcement, doctors, mental health professionals, and judges commit an individual for mental health treatment, where within 72 hours they'll be seen for a psychiatric evaluation, and it's determined whether or not they need further services for stabilization or if they'll be released at that point. The Baker Act, when we evaluate, we have to see whether or not the person refuses involuntary or voluntary commitment, or if they voluntarily want to go in and receive services. If they refuse, what we're going to look for is whether or not there's neglect of self-care. So we'll check to make sure, is there food in the fridge? Are they able to take care of themselves? Do they have functioning like water and utilities, the things that we need to sustain life? The other thing that we look at is whether or not they're at risk of harm to themselves or someone else in the community, the household. And if that's the case, we're going to take them in for treatment. The location that we take them to here in this area is East Dunedin. They provide receiving services for both adults and juveniles. When they're released from East Dunedin, they're provided a service, a treatment plan where they're referred to services, and if necessary, provided meds to get them through until they can get connected with that service. As far as the mental health unit with the agency, we've been around for a little while, but we've been gradually increasing and enhancing our program and expanding. So we are a co-responder program. We have a law enforcement officer that drives around with a therapist or a mental health clinician. And the hopes of our intervention is to de-escalate the individual and not have to Baker Act if possible. If we can step up and provide services, connect that person with maybe where the gap is, where they're going into crisis, and link them with that service, that's better. There's less chance of them having to go in and be involuntarily committed for the evaluations and for their treatment. So once we get on scene and we decide if we can take care of the individual or if we have to take them in for further services for hospitalization, we also assess whether or not which programs, especially with Monica here that she just spoke about, would be appropriate for the individual. And we also follow up with the individual once they get out of East Dunedin and see what we can do to make sure they are going and following through with that treatment plan, because we'd rather them not recidivate. We're trying to keep those who are being arrested due to their mental illness from that happening. The sheriff recognized the jail as one of the biggest facilities for housing people with mental illness, unfortunately. So we're hoping by educating the public on what services are available out there, helping de-escalate, we make ourselves known to the community. We actually, we are CIT trained, so we have a pin that we all wear. A lot of people have been trained to recognize that pin. NAMI is a very strong advocate for us, and so they educate all the individuals as to what that pin looks like. So when we show up on scene, they know that they can trust us and talk to us, that we understand their mental illness and we're there to help them. Lieutenant Haish was kind enough to provide me some information on Safe Harbor. Safe Harbor, as you know, is our homeless facility. We take over 12,000 people in over a year. 1,000 of those are homeless who have been released from the jail, and 5,000 are unique individuals who are just seeking shelter. So we will also, as the mental health unit, transport a person to that location if necessary until we can connect them with some sort of housing. Safe Harbor collaborates with Metropolitan Ministries. They provide the meals there at the facility. They receive persons 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but they also have a curfew. So if a person, however, works shift hours where they're going to be in after 10 or 11 o'clock, they can arrange, notify those who are working at Safe Harbor that they will not be in until midnight, 1 in the morning, and of course they allow that to happen. They want to make sure the person has housing to come back to. They provide case management At Safe Harbor, we have social workers and a licensed mental health clinician that works there that can help connect the individual with whatever services they need. And they also have the amenities such as Wi-Fi, a washer, dryer, television, microwave, shower, and lockers there. And the facility will accept donations of clothing and toiletries. As far as medical services, what's nice is the Bayside Clinic is also right there on the same property. They provide medical, mental health, and dental services for the homeless adults through Healthcare for the Homeless program. And then on site at Safe Harbor, some of the programs and classes that they offer include veteran services, HIV and AIDS awareness, pedestrian safety, especially since we have a lot of our homeless who are sleeping out on the streets. We want to make sure that they're being cautious in what they're doing out there when they're not at the facility. And then we have AA and NA treatment, Social Security advocacy, and Access Florida is on site to help connect individuals with food stamps and provide free cell phones. And then Career Source and PTech to connect the individual with job opportunities.
Thank you, Sergeant Bowman. We wanted to provide not just information, obviously, for our community and for our residents, but also some of the things that we do internally for our employees. So I will turn it over to Dr. Smalling to talk about our EAP.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission. Teresa Smalling, Director of HR and Risk Management for the city. As Nicole mentioned, we do have an employee assistance program internally for our employees. It's basically provided free of service to all of our employees, regardless of whether they take our insurance or not. It does include, the benefit includes 6 visits per person per issue per year. So whether it's a family member, a child, dependent, or the employee or partner or spouse, they have that available to them. They do have access to mental health professionals 24/7, 365 days a year. And one of the benefits, I would say, if there is one that came out of COVID, is the use of telehealth. So we do have a mental health telehealth option now that employees or their dependents are able to use if they don't necessarily want to go in and see somebody and they wake up in crisis at night. They can access the mental health telehealth option. The services cover anything from financial, mental, any life issues. They need to find a bank. They want to get childcare. From the simplest of resources up through if they're having some kind of mental health crisis or they just need more information about something that's happening in their family. All those are available to them. The EAP does coordinate as far as we're able to with the employee's insurance. So if one of our employees has the city's insurance and they want to continue the visits after the 6 visits, they can coordinate through the mental health benefit of the insurance program and use that, continue with the caregiver if they desire to. We do encourage self-referrals, employees if they think they're having issues, but we also have the aspect where managers, if they see issues, sometimes issues can come out in terms of as disciplinary. So we sort of look at the discipline, and if we think that it's something that's there may just be a symptom, then we may refer the employee as a mandatory EAP assistance. And sometimes the employee just doesn't even know that they have that available to them. So we do direct the employee, make it mandatory so that the employee can get the help that they need. And, I'm happy to say that for most of the ones that, I've had to do, they have gotten benefit from them. And, I have had employees come back and thank us for it, even though at the time, it just seemed like, because there is a stigma with EAPs where people think, oh, you have to be crazy to use the EAP or, you're just out there. But I always tell people that the EAP is like you have a tool toolbox, and the EAP is just another tool to add to your toolbox to assist you with life. We all know life is just so easy and no problems at all. We also have a mental health aspect through our Growth 365 wellness program. And then our firefighters, our EMS division chief, he works on making sure that our firefighters, if they go to a scene that may be not the best, that they have check-ins to make sure that, if anyone may be affected by it, that they can get the help that they need. They do have a chaplain as well as some other services that are provided specifically for firefighters. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Dr. Smelling. And as you mentioned when we started this morning about the financial support provided from the city through aid to organizations for some of these agencies, the House of Mercy and Encouragement, which provides mental health services. Dunedin Cares, obviously, assists with food insecurities. Random Act of Flowers to bring joy and happiness to our individuals in hospitals and nursing homes. And then Neighborly Cares, which provides Meals on Wheels and counseling services.
And Nicole, I just point out that the city does donate, give $10,000 to Safe Harbor through the sheriff's program also.
As part of one of the attachments to the program was the resource document. It's very long, and there's lots of connections to organizations, issues, crisis, so many things. So I just wanted to kind of pinpoint where it was. This is obviously the current website. So if you go obviously to our main page, then you go to services, and then I can't even read this. You go to City Community Support, and then the Social Services Directory. And that's where I talked to Phyllis. No, she's not still here. Phyllis, I believe, worked on this with the Social Services Committee. It's a very robust document on a lot of resources available. So in addition to this document that's already on the website, as we transition and move into a new website, is kind of what will we do from here. We want to include all of the information that we've provided today in connection to any local resources so that our residents can find them easily. We're obviously continue to support our local organizations. There will be a Dunedin blog post in Dunedin News next week that will connect this presentation and all the resource guides to that. Updating the website, and then continuing to share the events, those sorts of things that we can through our social media pages. And then lastly, I had to put in there advocacy with our state and federal legislature, which this was one of your priorities from this past year. Sheriff Bowman also provided several pages of resources which are at the end of this presentation, so that is all also there. And with that, do you all have any questions?
Okay. Commissioner?
Yes. First of all, thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. It is a huge topic, and it was very interesting for me to see how many organizations are involved. And then I was thinking, how does the school, get all your services? Or how do they navigate? And I know you have a navigation, something under PIMS, but I was wondering, you see a child, and then is it the social worker at a school? Is it the guidance counselor? Then who reaches out and tries to find them, because there's a myriad of services, the correct service?
So for us, if they're in need of a mental health crisis, the school has what they have social workers within the school. But if they know they're not in that immediate, they assess for that immediate danger. And if they feel they don't meet that Baker Act criteria, then they will refer out to us. They say, hey, I spoke with the parent. They're interested in outpatient services. Can you be that connect? And they'll give us a call or the parent will call and say, I got your number from the school, we need services, my child is doing XYZ. Or we get calls from the principal, we get calls from the social workers themselves, we get calls from the school resource officers. So we get calls from everybody. So it can be the parent, the school social workers, the Pinellas County School Board, it doesn't matter. And they're saying, the child doesn't meet the immediate crisis to be inpatient, but they do need some outpatient services. Can you follow up? And as I said before, we do respond in-home via telehealth, over the phone. We service all the county from South St. Pete by the Skyway all the way up to Tarpon Springs. So we service all of Pinellas County. So if we get that call and they say, yes, we want your services, we're there.
And so that's a direct with the social workers and the guidance counselors?
Yes, it can be from anyone. Mm-hmm.
And then you have your resource officers. So I guess, do they call because they've seen some incident of something that on the school grounds, and how does that work?
Depending on the level of crisis, if none of these processes described by Monica can be handled by those individuals, then the school resource officer will step in and do the evaluation as far as for a Baker Act. Law enforcement may also become involved if a P3 tip is sent in where another student or the student themselves is concerned about someone at the school regarding a mental health crisis, whether it's taking their own life or maybe harming someone else at the school. Then law enforcement will go out and investigate that and determine the best course of action for the child.
So, I mean, there's several ways that you can navigate to get the actual services you need. And I just, one final thing, I was really interested in, I think it just went into effect in 2020, where you send a clinician out to ride with the officer. Yes. We have that in Dunedin, right?
Yes, what we have, we are working throughout different areas, and as we're expanding, we're going into more areas of the county. So we're working towards getting into the city. By all means, if we are nearby and a call comes out, we will respond and we will help. But yes, that's one thing we're getting to. We would like to be countywide. So
That's
And
wonderful.
we're not currently in Dunedin.
But hopefully, I mean, if y'all show an interest, I mean, hopefully you can.
It's on
bring
my
it.
list to talk about.
That's wonderful. So can you give me, just a real example of what you might use the clinician to go to? What kind of,
there are a lot of people paranoid of law enforcement, government officials. So it's great for us to be able to respond together and get out on the scene. The deputy's there for, protection, to look out, make sure everybody's safe and nobody's going to be harmed. But we allow the clinician to step forward and do the speaking and the intervention, the de-escalation, as long as they're in a safe environment. And they build that bond and that trust with the individual that's a clinician, and they end up usually calling the clinician for any additional services from there out, as opposed to maybe calling 911 when they don't need it, or having a law enforcement response. And even though law enforcement's with the clinician when we come out, this is our priority, this is what we focus on, these are the calls we go to.
Thank you. I was really interested in that beginning in 2020. I thought that was great. Thank you all so much. I know everybody else has a lot of questions, and
Can you just, on behalf of all of us, because I think we all have it on our list, can you talk a little bit more about the progress of the pilot program that you've been working on with the clinician, and at what point do you look at expanding? Like, what's the criteria to look at getting out of the area? Because you're in what, Clearwater, Largo?
We just brought on Largo to work with us. Clearwater
Right.
started working with us. They decided in 2020 they wanted to come on board with us. When we started initially, we were a very small unit. There are only 2 teams, for lack of a better term, with the deputy and clinician riding together, trying to cover a vast area throughout the whole county. And that was just impossible to be able to continue to provide services for all these individuals all over the place and maintain case management for them. So we decided to narrow down the location to an area where we could provide services effectively And in doing that, we were contracted, with an outside behavioral health non-for-profit facility to navigate with us and ride with us as far as the therapists. The sheriff has since decided in 2020 to hire on the clinicians himself. So they're now PCSO employees who are working with us and helping provide the services. As we gradually onboard more therapists, that's when we're expanding the area as far as where we're going into. So it's, of course, the cost that's considered as to what's being able to be covered, along with we want to make sure we're how many people it takes or how many of our units it takes to be effective in an area before we know we can expand to a larger geographic area and continue our services. And when we do expand, how many more groups or units are we going to need? Or can we expand with what we currently have and still be effective?
Okay. Go ahead.
Am I next?
No, you can ask a question about that if you want.
Just a follow-up, just how many clinicians do you currently have?
Well, we have 9 now. With the expansion, hopefully we'll have 3 more. They're supervised. So we have one that goes to Largo. So that's where the collaboration between the different law enforcement agencies are. They're actually the clinicians from our agency contracted to work with Largo and Clearwater. So between those agencies, they have 3, and then we have had 6 of our own, and we're now in the process of gaining 3 more for our agency.
Have they been hard to get? I mean, I assume it would be easier to work with other agencies, but Sheriff probably wants a little more control so that he can train in the way they want. Maybe, I'm just guessing.
I couldn't answer that
for
him. I don't want to speak on his behalf. But it's nice knowing that there are employees that have access to our systems. And part of what really works is collaboration of reporting. So we now have the access to the law enforcement reports. So we can see how many times we've gone out, had contact with this family or this individual, and we can report it back to the behavioral health facilities. So that information is something they might not receive if we weren't working closely with them. They still operate under the appropriate guise of getting releases of information when it comes to treatment of clients. So they work with the facilities as far as that and getting it signed. East Dunedin has a copy of our ROI on file. So if it's someone that we are working with, we can collaborate services with them directly.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that particular subject?
Yes. I didn't have this question before, but now I do. Of the teams, how many teams do you think, just in a guess, that we'd really like to have throughout all of Pinellas County?
We are looking at going into a new squad very soon, and we're doing 3 teams for that. And part of the reason being, we have teams assigned to work day shift, and that's when the behavioral health facilities are open. So they're going to do the more hand-holding, the more elaborate case linking, and then we have teams that work in the evening time till midnight. And their primary focus is going to be going to in-progress calls for service. And if the person they've had contact with needs more hand-holding, then they'll refer to our day shift, who will come out the next day and assist. So we are currently expanding. We'll be in 3 different squads with 3 teams each, and I think that's effective in the point that we have overlapping coverage during the busiest hours for our evening shift cars, and then we have one day shift that really focuses on getting treatment for those individuals to the facilities.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other question on this particular program?
Yeah, Mayor?
Yep.
Mayor? You had mentioned you're currently working with Clearwater and just got into Largo, or the other way around. And both of those municipalities have their own law enforcement. So are those clinicians with those law enforcement agencies, or are they part of the sheriff's office?
They're part of the sheriff's office, and our clinicians have their own managed medical record system. So they are able to document everything into that system so that our clinicians that ride with our deputies are able to see the information that is put in for someone who was seen by Clearwater officers, which is important because a lot of times our transient who are mentally ill are back and forth between all of our jurisdictions. And it allows us to keep track of what services we've offered or tried to connect them with that maybe didn't work, so we can try a different avenue or route the next time.
Okay, and so are those clinicians, is that kind of, for those agencies, is it more of an after-action service, or are you able to be live on the scene if you're called?
They do both.
Is that, okay, okay. And within the city of Dunedin, since we don't have our own law enforcement, that would be a contract that we would have. When you talk about expanding your services and the needs assessment that goes into that, certainly funding has to be part of that need. And so is it a matter of the city of Dunedin requesting that and providing the funding for it, or the sheriff's office coming to Dunedin and going, we are seeing a need for this in your area?
I think that would be a great conversation, maybe brought up to the sheriff as far as how that would work best coming into the city and working with you.
I've actually, Commissioner, had that conversation with the sheriff.
Okay.
So I can elaborate on that in a little bit if you'd like.
Well, can I just jump one question on that? Because is there, I'll ask both of you, is there data collected that shows the areas that need it more than others? And have we been looked at at all? Or is that, again, that's part of, okay, so that's part of the ongoing trying to understand how this thing works and helps?
Yes, we're able to see mental health calls for services throughout the entire population that we serve within the county, and how many Baker Acts out of each area and that kind of situation to see a need for us.
Well, and the idea really isn't, the idea with this, I don't know if you're still calling it a pilot program, the way Sheriff Galtieri described it to me is that it was a pilot, and it was done, in 2020, that there were certain things happening that this, when there was kind of a call for some shift in law enforcement techniques, let's call it.
Yes, yes.
This was part of that, and this was part of Sheriff's,
Like his vision.
yeah, his vision of multiple different things. And that they wanted to do a pilot program that, to try to understand, okay, how much, how many, where, and how does it work? And how does it then fit into the overall system as time goes by? Because I would only assume that it becomes part of the regular system countywide once the data and the kinks are worked out. Am I saying that correctly? Because to me, it would be almost, instead of a service, it's just part of the system. This is how we do our law enforcement.
Law enforcement's going to be called out to mental health calls.
Right.
That's never going to go away. So yes, we'll continually be involved in the behavioral health system, even though that's not our expertise. We had the benefit of the mental health unit bringing some expertise with us by having a therapist. And yeah, we're always going to have a need. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to be stable enough to, reside a regular life. They're at some point going to need intervention. So we want to be there to provide that support. Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that, Jennifer?
No, just the conversation that I had with the sheriff. It was actually in regards to this presentation. He gave me a call and about the mental health unit. And I think that we did discuss what it would look like to expand those services into the city of Dunedin, just on the very most basic terms. And I think that it does warrant additional conversation as far as and it has to be data-driven conversation, whether or not this would be of benefit to the city of Dunedin, the residents and business owners in the city of Dunedin or not, whether it's a true need here, whether it's a full-time need even. But he did make it clear to me that it is a service that would require compensation, obviously, and not part of the service provided by the sheriff's office at this point. So that, that's something that we would have to discuss further with the sheriff's office. I do think that this is something that would be most certainly discussed during budget time in the next strategic planning retreat we have, and the business plan as well, moving forward, since this is not something that's budgeted for this year. So I wouldn't recommend that we take it up at this point, but definitely look into it if we're so directed by the city commission.
I would certainly hope that, as I think I just said, that over time, that the service is integrated into the day-to-day law enforcement, that it's not about an extra service, it's just it's a shift in how certain calls are handled.
Might mean our service gets more expensive, our contract.
Overall,
Because the
right,
inflation's
but you're
gonna
not
be
paying for
more.
that specific thing, is what I'm trying to say. To me, it's about, just a shift in how the law enforcement is implemented, let me say it that, versus, okay, Clearwater gets a mental health counselor and Dunedin doesn't. I mean, to me, I think, our sheriff is very good at looking at new programs and, and trying to look at what he's done with Safe Harbor. I mean, so I don't see this as a thing, well, we want it or we don't, because we're not the law enforcement experts. It's about, is our law enforcement, is that a way to implement certain types of law enforcement? And I would certainly hope that if in Dunedin there was a crisis call that would have warranted this in Dunedin versus Clearwater, that the sheriff would send it. That it's just an automatic part of law enforcement versus an extra service. But I understand we're not there yet. He's still working out the kinks. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, just overall my comments, I just think nationwide this makes sense. And I'm proud of our sheriff for being proactive.
Yep.
And stepping in and trying this stuff. I think DCO had the mental health unit team come one time, maybe when it first started.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really impressive. But no, I think if it all works, I was writing down here, as a nation, as a city, as this county, like, oh, more law enforcement, oh, more jails. Oh, and so maybe this is the way we finally understand we have to, mental health has always been part of law enforcement, right? Yes. Social services has always been part of law enforcement, but we kind of keep it all separate as if it's like some make-believe world, and we'll fund the death out of law enforcement and jails, but it's like, oh, there's all these contributing factors, and now, to me, this is finally bringing some things together that need to be together. You're bringing some professional clinicians into your world to deal with things that you're not trained to do on a day-to-day basis. So to me, it makes sense. And so going back to your comment, yeah, I see this, I think, that ultimately it's going to be tremendously successful. You're going to learn a lot about it, and there's going to be more integration of the mental health role and social services. Safe Harbor is definitely integration of social services. So there's going to be more integration, and hopefully that we find solutions, that actually help all of us in this. So.
Well, and maybe Jennifer and Teresa, maybe you can get a sense from Sheriff Gualtieri of what is his timeline in looking at a countywide system as a way of operation, whatever that is. He might be saying 5 years from now. I don't know, but it's probably important to understand that piece of it. What's the goal? And I'm sure he's got an opinion on how or how not successful it is, and I'm
He
sure.
doesn't have strong opinions. Come on. No, just kidding.
Well, and you wouldn't be adding people if it wasn't a good program. So, and a good method of a type of law enforcement.
Intervention.
Right.
It's a clinical intervention.
Because that being said, to me, I'd like to know the data, and I'm not sure how good the data is yet, but once we can understand how good it is to Dunedin, then maybe we tag on in a pilot kind of way, and we help with funding, I don't know, while it's getting integrated. Because clearly being integrated is just going to cost, it's going to cost more, no matter what. It's going to cost more at the countywide level, it's going to cost more at our contract level, so. So the need's there. We might want to jumpstart.
And I like this part of the conversation, you know, and I think it's important that if there's a need and Dunedin can fit into that pilot program, I would certainly be supportive of it. But I do appreciate the idea that the thought process isn't that it's a separate part of law enforcement. It is integrated, and it should be just part of the services they provide.
Right, at, you know, and maybe it's just a higher price per hour, you know how we get charged.
Because I think that also helps with taking away the stigma from the public, that it's something special, something different. It's just a service we provide.
Can I ask one question? Does it make any difference because we have a hospital that is one of the accepting, you know, East Dunedin? Yeah, it's an accepting facility here in our jurisdiction.
That's a good point.
So.
That's a really good point. Look at Teresa smiling. She's already thought about it over there.
So, you know, I'm just
Probably
wondering.
got her on her list of defense line.
You know, because of that connection, you know.
Very good point.
It may be even more important for us to be able to do the pilot.
We take several people, not just from the city there.
Oh, yeah,
It's the
I'm sure.
closest as far as the needs for the individual. Our transportation plan shows that juveniles actually are only taken there or to PIMS. There's only certain places we can take juveniles, and the same for individuals 65 or older. So, which is typically the closest hospital. So we are at East Dunedin quite often.
Well, that says a lot about how we should integrate into this program, doesn't it? Very good point, Vice Mayor. That's why you make the big bucks.
Oh, right.
And that's why you'll never be a lame duck.
Any other comments on this particular program? And I'll go back to the normal questions. All right, any other questions over there did you have besides that program?
Not on the sheriff's office.
Any other questions?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, mental health is a big issue with the homeless issue, and so I'm just, I mean, we obviously, I think, have it on a much more minor level than some other areas of the county.
But it's growing.
But, yeah, and I think that, you know, making sure we're on top of it and handling things well. When I say well, with compassion and doing the right thing for people. So what is your messaging? And I guess this could be just the everyday officer, or I don't know how the mental health unit folds into this, but what is your messaging if you do come across a homeless person who's clearly living in a park? What do you do?
We ask what it is we can do to help make things better. Do they want to go to a shelter? Do they have a shelter of preference? Do they need a meal for now? Are they looking for clothing? Whatever we can do. You know, some people take it. It's a gradual process. A homeless person a lot of times isn't comfortable coming off the street right away because that's what they're used to. That's their environment. So we just have to keep trying and contacting the individual where we can find them and when we can find them. You know, it's more difficult if they don't have a cell phone. Not all of them do. So we rely on community policing to actually contact us once they come into contact with homeless individuals. But we take it one step at a time. There's a Housing First that's put out there a lot by the behavioral health system, that if we can get a person under first in shelter, we can get them to expand to additional services from there out.
So what if they say no?
They can say no. There's really nothing we can do about that, unfortunately. There's a lot of issues we run into that, but we don't stop. We keep trying, you know. We can't force a person to medicate. The state hospital and receiving facility can. So if we show up and a person's not medicated, that doesn't give us the right to take them in under a Baker Act. They actually have to meet the criteria to do so. But it doesn't mean we're going to give up on them. They go through different series and levels of changes and desire to change. And it's getting them to that right point of contemplation where we really try to encourage them to connect with the service, get off the street.
But again, they can't live in the park.
No.
So how do you handle that from a law enforcement, you know, and health TLC? when they just, I'm sorry, I'm living in your park, I'm going to sleep on your bench, I'm not going anywhere.
They'll be trespassed usually. Most locations allow us the authorization to trespass the individual from that location. And if they continue to stay, unfortunately, they usually end up arrested, and that's what we're trying to avoid.
Sure, no. No, I mean, it's a tough issue, and I think we have a few issues like that in our city, along with maybe just kind of the typical asking for money and, asking for food and
We have trespass.
and you're trying to be compassionate because you understand there can be a lot of things going on with the person. On the other hand, so, it's that balance. And of course, as a commission, I mean, it's an issue I've talked to Jennifer about. I don't want to underestimate the issue, and I want to deal with the issue with compassion, but also don't want to let it get out of control either. So
So that's where our community policing deputies come in, because they know who the frequent flyers are, if you will. We also have worked with the Homeless Coalition in the past, where we will call them to come and speak with the individuals and see if they do want the services. But, as Sergeant Bowman says, at the end of the day, the deputies, if they find them sleeping overnight in the parks, then they can trespass them, because, there's just so much that they can do in terms of facilitating them being where they want to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough issue, and I think it's a tough issue now, but I just kind of want to understand your messaging, because I know that, we're all going to get some of this. It's tough, and of course, I know St. Pete has,
A ton of it.
and Clearwater have much more bigger issues than we do, but again, we want to deal with it correctly and manage it so it doesn't get out of control.
The biggest issue, as Sergeant Bowman said, I know when we see with the adult population, is the homelessness. And there's one, a BOLI resource that does provide the housing for homeless and mental health issue, but they have to be stable. And I see on my end, working at the receiving facility and in the community, is, like Sergeant Bowman said, we can't force an adult, not even a child, to take the medication. But when they're inpatient and say they're in there for a week and a couple months and they're medicated and they're doing well, it's that snowball effect of once they leave that hospital or that facility, because they have the notion, as we all have before, well, I'm feeling good, I don't need it, instead of, that psychoeducation that we all need to instill and help and have that extra layer, that wraparound services support to say, okay, yes, you're feeling good. That means the medicine is working, and to continue, because once they leave and they're not under that care and they don't have that support, they stop it, and that's when they snowball and they're right in that same thing, and that's when you see the homelessness, because you can have someone that's home and they're doing well the first 3 months, but after they're, okay, I'm good, I don't need it, and they stop taking it or backslide, that's where they're doing that downward slope. They're decomping, and you're back at square one again. And that's what I see with a lot of our homeless population. I've seen it where they were able to get stable. Some moms and dad get their kids back. They had the housing, but then I'm good, I'm on top, but then they're not taking that medication, and then we're back at square one. They lost it. So the biggest thing is to start by getting them that extra wraparound support, getting that extra layer, so they have that, okay, you have the training techniques, that toolbox, like Sergeant Bowman said, and Miss Dr. Teresa said, get in that toolbox, okay, this is what you need. Take your medication, these active wraparound services, this, and this, so they know, so then they're not decomping and backsliding, because that's what happens, because they feel like they're okay. You can keep putting them in jail, you can keep putting them in these facilities, but they're stable, but then 3 months later, you're right back at square one. So yeah. I see that's where a lot of it, from my end, that's where a lot of it's happening and coming from.
Well, how do you get them to get their medicine? I mean, and I totally understand
it's
what you're saying.
It's a lot of programs. You have the Florida Blue Card, especially. I know we get a lot of clients that are from out of state and or out of town or out of county. It's helping them get registered within the county and the state, having those resources on hand. Like, again, Safe Harbor is another good one. Giving them, helping them helping providing them those resources. Sometimes we're just so quick to say, okay, you have all of this, but they're so overwhelmed that they don't know how to do that. So providing more case management, providing so much more wraparound. Sometimes it can take all of us to do that, and that's what we have to do. And I know for our program, we're like mental health on steroids. So we come in, we do that warm handoff, and you're at your outpatient. But I think having more wraparound services within a community where you have that village that's there to rally, where you have Sergeant Bowman, you have us, you have the people there, okay, to do those daily check-ins and continue. And when you have that, I think when that person feels supported and they have all of this and they see, then okay, they're going from, like Sergeant Bowman said, they're going from pre-contemplation to contemplation. Now you're at that next stage, you're at, okay, you're just doing that maintenance, and that's there. I think we just don't have enough of that wraparound and that rallying for them.
The maintenance.
Yes, the
Of,
maintenance
like,
and that extra
you
layer.
really do have a schedule and someone that's going to help you stay on your medication.
Because mental health, it's a sickness and it's hard and it's going to be trying and they're going to push and they're going to fight, but that's like us. We get the calls, and I get suicidal calls once a week where they don't want to stay on the phone, but I'm going to call you back till you answer. I'm going to send law enforcement, but you have to be in it. You have to stay there. And when people feel like there's somebody that care, they're going to do it. They're going to give in and they're going to do it. But they feel like the police don't care. You're another mental health worker, but when you show them you're different, that's when they say, okay, you can see the change. You can see it. And so you keep getting that. And that's what I tell parents that we have when they have adult children. It's if they don't follow through, you're going to continue to go through the same cycle for years or decades because it's a snowball effect. You have to find another approach. You're going to have to find like the combination of medication or different things. It's not an easy fix.
And one of the things, we try to watch all the clients that we've come in contact with, and it can be difficult because we're up 1,000 plus, but we watch our report writing system, and if somebody we connected with services all of a sudden is in contact again with us, something's wrong again. So we go out and we try to re-engage and try to prevent them from getting to where they previously were and maybe get them back on track where they need to be.
So you all, I mean, it's a whole
Takes a
web.
village.
It's a whole web of trying to help each other and help your clients. And
Yes. I just say more community mental health resources, and I think that's where to start. And once you have that, and once you put it out there, because honestly, a lot of people are afraid of that stigma. You even hear the parents say, well, if you come out here, or if my child, is this going to go on their record? No, and I think it's that stigma that's attached to it, and they're afraid of it. So I think the more my motto is speak up, talk about it, let's get it out there. Because the more we are quiet about it and we just take action and not sit down and explain about it, the more that stigma grows. So when we talk about it and we put it out there and we let them know, it's not a stigma. Everybody has something. So we need to put it out there, resources, and get it out there. Then everybody's more open to talk about it. Everybody's more. So if we get out there, we put it out there and get these resources and provide this, then I think everybody's more open to come. Let's talk about it, and you have more people ready to engage.
Illness for a reason.
It's our secrets that keep us sick.
Yes.
We try to keep, reduce the
really good.
stigmatization as much as we can. So this isn't our typical uniform for the mental health unit. We dress like the CPs do, the community policing officers, with the black BDUs and a polo, so that it's less authoritative, a little bit more softer in our approach. And we drive unmarked cruisers, so that way there's not a billboard sitting in front of their household as we're out there trying to interact with them.
Good.
That makes sense.
Great. Any other questions on the overall program?
Can I just ask one, does St. Pete have a program?
They use the call program. They have therapists that respond or handle calls for service. They go out alone unless it's deemed an officer is needed.
Okay. Interesting. Well, you guys go.
Yep.
Yeah, to Monica, actually you had 3 phone numbers. You had, was it 988, 911, and then 211? And I'm wondering if are those numbers interlinked, or do they transfer? If I call 911, I can get transferred to fire or ambulances or whatever, the sheriff's office. And I'm wondering if you call 911, but through that phone call, it sounds mental health, whether you can transfer them to 988 or...
988, so if you call 988, so if you call 211 first and you tell them they have their own kind of crisis person that they'll talk to you. So if you call 211 and you're saying in crisis, and they'll talk to you, they'll provide that crisis intervention to you. So they have crisis counselors there. If you call 988, they're kind of interlinked, but they kind of different numbers. So 211 is mainly for financial assistance, but they do have crisis counselors on hand. If it's too much, they'll transfer you to 988. So if you're talking to someone on 988 and you're just like, my mom's getting on my nerves, or my fiance, whatever, they'll talk to you. But then if you're saying, I'm having active suicidal ideation, I really need to talk to somebody, that's when they transfer you to me or one of my staff members. And then we'll come out, they'll give you us, and they'll say, hey, we have this person on the line, they're having active, suicidal ideation, no intent or plan at this time, could you follow up, could you go from there? And then we get the call and we take it from there. So they're they kind of like fire.
And that's from 211 to 988?
Yes, it'll go
right.
to, because...
And I certainly don't want to overload the 911 system when it's truly an emergency line, more law enforcement or health related. But now it's up to the public to kind of remember whatever crisis I'm in, what number do I call? And I wonder if there's any thought process into the evolution of 911 to be able to, or is this 911, I'm going to get the sheriff's office with maybe a clinician comes with it. And do we think that is the right approach, or is there an evolution to where it might transfer to somebody just more talking on the phone? The 911 certainly can't spend time talking with that person.
I'm not sure about that. I just know they've just been broadcasting, because it used to be the You Good line, and I can't remember, I think it was just 211. So they put out this mass promotion for 988. That's who you can call. If you're feeling suicidal, it's the National Suicide Hotline. So instead of you dialing this long number, now it's just 988 for everybody to remember. So if you call that number, that's who you'll get. And then 211 has just like all been for information, whether it's financial or anything, but they still have crisis counselors on hand and everybody. But they just put out this big thing that is 988 to call. And that's as far as I know.
And if we get called out, we're big on providing education. So making sure the individual with the mental illness, the family members they reside with, sometimes the neighbors are more supportive. Whoever's in their support group, their support network, we provide them all kinds of information, from pamphlets, flyers, websites that they can go and see. Because they don't want a cop in their house. So if they know that there's another line that they can call, they're more likely to do that. So.
Thank you. And I guess to Teresa, I know we have bulletin boards and things around the city where we're required to post things. We're required to post OSHA information and things of that nature. And I know we have EAP stuff, but I also know that some of those bulletin boards, information can get lost on any bulletin board. And so are the employees aware of the website page that we have?
So
and do we talk about it with them?
So, great question, Commissioner. So we go over it. We actually, Humana, who's our health insurance provider, just changed EAP vendors as of October 1st. So we talked about it during open enrollment, and with that, we encourage all our employees to come to. We send out the emails, to say, hey, here's our new EAP vendor. Here's how you access the information. We do try to go around because we do send out the notices and ask for them to be posted, but we do try to go around to all the facilities to make sure that the information is actually posted there. And of course, if an employee is just not sure, they can always call HR to get that information. So we try as much as we can to make sure that all employees.
Are they going to feel comfortable calling HR?
I hope so. That's one of the things we try to pride ourselves on, that we are a no judgment type thing, that if they just need information, that they can get it, but we do try to make sure that it is posted. It's also in our intranet that you can't really access right now, but we do put all that information up where employees can just go without having to talk to somebody about it.
If I may, Mayor, I do want to say something about EAP, because there is a stigma involved in EAP. And I just want to state for the record that I've contacted EAP many times in my career for additional help.
About us?
Yes. Most recently, the last city commission meeting, but anyway.
Just yesterday.
We understand fully why you need
Right,
it.
exactly. But, and there was a mental wellness component of the ICMA National Conference in Columbus, and they talked about the importance of the leadership conveying to the employees that EAP is a very, very useful resource for them, and that leadership also has availed themselves of EAP. For me, it's 8 or 9 times throughout my career with different issues, as I raised my son and lost my parents and all those sorts of things. So it's really important for the employees to know that they should call.
First and third.
Yeah, it's the first of every month.
Well, I was going to say the same thing. I've contacted our EAP, I think 3 times since I've been with the city of Dunedin. Once for me and twice for family members. It's been wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's a direct line that gets you into somebody pretty quickly. And I mean, there's not other services besides that piece of the employee assistance program. So it's not always mental health things. But the nice thing about it is you're not trying to figure out where am I going to go. It takes that piece right out of it. So, so it's been very beneficial to my family. I mean, for my situation, I had 2 parents die 12 days apart with 2 funerals and broke my back a week later. I didn't grieve for a year because I was trying to, heal. But grief, you can't escape grief. It comes. It's going to come. You don't ever get to bypass it. And I didn't realize that. And I needed to realize that. And I didn't have to go that long to get it, and it was Nancy that turned me on to that back in the day.
And we do stress confidentiality, not just, that's one of my core values in HR, confidentiality, as well as EAP itself, that even if you're referred, we direct you to go to EAP, they're not reporting back to say what it is you talked about. They're just saying that you are in compliance, that you're showing up for your meetings, that you're doing what they're asking you to do, and that as of this date you are released, or even if you're going to continue going. They don't even disclose that to us. So, confidentiality is huge when it comes to these things, because you need to have the trust of your employees when you're talking about things like this, because, people, we know how easy it is for stuff to get on social media and people to talk about other people. So we definitely stress that.
And with actually the pins that your clinicians wear, you talked about school resource officers and social workers and guidance counselors. Does anybody on campus wear those pins at all, so they're easily identifiable?
It's the law enforcement that have it. It's crisis intervention team training. It's a 40-week course that we take to learn how to de-escalate and communicate with persons suffering from mental illness. And yes, anyone who's completed that program is wearing that pin on their uniform for it to be recognized. And they do put all of our school resource officers through the program immediately.
Makes sense. Very good.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to say I too utilized employee, because hey, I think let's just.
You do too.
We're going to shame
And
the
I've used
ones
it,
who have
yeah.
not. Okay, No, I mean, I think I don't even know why we call it mental health. I mean, life is tough, right? there's issues that happen, and we shouldn't be ashamed to,
Should be
matter of
just-
fact, we should be ashamed not to, talk about it and be open. And Monica, your comment, I made the quote, it's our secrets that keep us safe. And the longer you go through life, the more you realize, the more open you are.
Keep you sick.
Sick, I'm sorry, it's our secrets that keep us sick. And so, putting air and light and counseling is a way to do that. And so, do we keep usage numbers?
Yes, we get a monthly report as to who's using it, whether they're going telehealth or, no, the numbers, not who actually is going. No names.
So what is percentage-wise our usage? Do we have a?
I would have to look that up. I mean, of course, it went up. We had more usage during COVID, and then it sort of stabilized after. So what we do hope, because sometimes it doesn't always tell you if it's, one person visiting 20 times or 20 people visiting one time. But what we do hope is that the people that have used it also become the ambassadors for it, and also that they, have created a habit from it. So the usage, going down doesn't necessarily mean that they stopped because they didn't need it anymore, but because they got the tools that they needed.
So, can I just make one statement and then I will shut up? Because I thought of this as we're going, and you all don't know this, but I was Director of Health and Human Services for Pinellas County for 4 years. And I learned a lot about the need and coordination of services and the confusion of that, and just, what pushes people into homelessness, what ways you can try to get them out. But one of my biggest takeaways was your support system. And Monica, you mentioned it, how important a support system is, and some people don't have one. And that can be the biggest differential. Like, you have one, you'll get through it. You don't have one, you might not. And it's really tough, but just one personal story. Recently, we had an event in Dunedin, and there was a musical group that sings for a lot of our events. And when the music group got up there, I noticed this young adult woman who has been homeless with her mom for a long time, and many of you may know who I'm talking about. And I saw her up there, and I thought, I wonder if she just went up there, or if she
sings.
Well, I didn't know. So I asked Reverend Bell afterwards.
Oh, I remember
and this church has put their arms around this young adult woman, who I think whose mother has had health issues, so she's kind of on her own now. But this church in our community put their arms around this woman, and that is what we have to realize. Everybody can make a difference.
That's right.
And in our own community, it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I could cry thinking about it. Because that is what we need to do is, it's not them, it's not a paid-for government agency. It's us. We're the ones that have to wrap our arms around people.
Well, we have to be part of the solution.
Exactly.
Every single person can be part, even small parts. If we learn, I think this was excellent. There was so much I learned. But if we can continue to learn about where we can go, how we can help people, how we can do that, what'd you call it, the third wrap around, how we can, I love the idea of the clinician going with for certain incidents. And so, we're all human. We all have things, and we can all be part of the solution. But I really thank all of you, and excellent, Nicole.
Thank you. So I wanted to just say, the reason we wanted to just have this dialogue, as I said when we opened, was that, what do we use our ARPA funding for? We're a small community of 38,000 people, and in a big pond of 1 million people. And I'm just rounding numbers here. I know it's not totally accurate, but... and so, trying to start over and duplicate our own services isn't necessarily the smartest use of money. What's a better use of it? Just like, it might be a better use of our money to do something with the sheriff's department. We don't know. But understanding what services are available, having people be able to watch this, ensuring that our website is up to date with all the services that are available, and just bringing more community awareness to the services that are out there is really, really important. So I want to thank each of you for being here. Nicole, thank you for a very extensive and detailed presentation. We appreciate that greatly. And hopefully the community will see that, you know, you've got some posts coming out on our newsletter. Hopefully the community will see that we saw it was an important issue. You know, and how we're trying to promote this type of information to our community. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate you sitting here for so long. You let us know if you need us for anything, because you do God's work, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I think that was Vice Mayor suggesting to do this, right? Yep, it was great. Thank you.
You know, I
Continues to push
I
that
even
envelope.
think, I just want to say, I even think the EAP discussing that today, that was very helpful. And it was very, hopefully that will be very helpful to our employees to even continue to know that we do have help.
I have one quick request. Can we get a picture with our guests here with you all?
Sure.
Where do you want us?
Even if you just want to stand up.
Yeah, you guys come up. We'll do that. That's probably the easiest.
We're standing in front, so we're a little closer.
Well, they can get,
Oh, they're
they
gonna
get
come
right
up? Oh,
there.
they're gonna
Yeah,
come
if those two
okay.
get right there, that way we don't have to try to figure it out. Yeah, we'll move around you. You guys just stand and we'll move.
Yeah.
There you go. We'll move around you.
Are you in? Or is everybody in?
Yep.
Let the photographer tell me I'm
Oh, no. Oh. Any requests if we do not want to be in? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
That was fascinating.
All right, so just to let everybody know, under informational items, we have a ton of updates from our city manager. So I tell you that because we have about 40 minutes, and I didn't see anybody that said they had any discussion items, so I'm just asking.
Nope.
Oh, okay. City clerk's update? Nothing? Okay. City manager's update. Jennifer?
We're a package deal
Yeah, we
today.
are.
Yeah, I know, you two are a package deal. I know you wanted to talk to us about give us an update about outdoor dining,
I do, yes. Thank you, Mayor.
or the task force.
So we have outdoor dining, we have the fat, oil, and grease ordinance. Nikki's going to talk about the breach of contract issue. And then somebody put holiday party on here, so I guess that wasn't me. It's the,
November
right.
18th?
Yeah, the November 18th, right. So if I may, just give you an update on the Downtown Dunedin Task Force. We just finished off our 4th meeting. And first of all, I want to say that each meeting was held on a Monday morning. It was 2 hours long, from 9 to 11. Sometimes we exceeded those 2 hours. Those who attended the task force were representative of the hospitality industry, our breweries, restaurants, of our retail and office, our residents in the area, and the city was at the table also. I just want to, first of all, thank those who attended. You know, that's 8 hours on a Monday morning. That's a long time. You know, that's a lot of time to dedicate to something like that. And I very much appreciate their efforts and their comments. It was very, very well facilitated by Angela Christ, who is the director of the Florida Institute of Government out of USF. She is a professional. She's done this before. She understands how government interacts with residents, and she certainly understands facilitating a group of folks who have disparate views, and how to find that common ground, lay down the ground rules. We'll be respectful. We won't talk over each other, and so on and so forth. And she did a super job doing that. The task force itself, the work effort was to find alignment and not necessarily agreement. We didn't think that we could find a complete agreement amongst all those entities. that came to the table, and in fact, we did find alignment. The task force exceeded my expectations as far as what we were able to do. We went from the first meeting, which was, there's a lot of tension in the air. There were a lot of folks who had been at odds for a long time, and sitting at the same table, sitting next to each other at a table. And to the fourth facilitated session where they're talking in groups and conveying their point of view and agreeing and finding alignment. You all will receive, along with the entire task force, the final report from Angela Christ. So, and it's a very detailed report. I want to thank the clerk's office. Catherine at the clerk's office was there with exceptional minutes of the meeting, which we sent out to all of you and to all of those on the task force as well. So the task force, the work of the task force was to find those priority items that they wanted, that they had alignment behind, that they wanted to move forward and work on. And those three priority items were evaluate current codes for practicality of enforcement. The second one was create a BRC, which is a business resident city group for continued communication and collaboration. That one actually I was overjoyed about that one because they want to continue working together. They want to continue meeting and working together. And then the last one was implement an outdoor hospitality initiative. And I would like to, if you don't mind, elaborate upon that one a bit. During the course of the pandemic, as you know, a lot of our restaurants and our breweries expanded into outdoor areas. And that was because, obviously, their tables and chairs inside, they had to move them apart, and a lot of their customers did not want to eat inside or be inside necessarily, as well as the fact that we have, during the wintertime, beautiful weather for that. And nobody really wants to sit inside when the weather is how it is during the course of the wintertime. So at the sunset of the pandemic then, what we have is folks who have encroached into private areas, their own private property, into areas with outdoor dining. Our code does not directly address that aspect. Our code speaks to outdoor dining on the right-of-way. And the license agreement to have that outdoor dining on the right-of-way, it restricts the area, it restricts the number of seats, and so on and so forth. So really, we have been applying that code to those private outdoor dining areas. Fast forward, the pandemic is over, and their customers are still enjoying the outdoor dining areas. Some of them have encroached, others have not. But this has been the status quo for the last year, I would say, after the pandemic. The Outdoor Hospitality Initiative was an initiative forwarded by a number of business owners within the downtown area. It was conveyed to the Chamber of Commerce, and they've now taken up the Outdoor Housing Initiative for a review and a recommendation, and staff has it in hand as well. So you have these three different entities. You have the stakeholder group with the Outdoor Hospitality Initiative, you have the Chamber of Commerce, and you have the City of Dunedin, and the task force is involved in this as well. So within the frame of the Land Development Code amendments that we're doing, as you know, you funded in fiscal year 2023 funds for us to take on a consultant to help us rewrite our code. I want to pluck out the outdoor dining and move it ahead of that work effort, and I'd like authorization from all of you to do so. In the intervening period, and that's why George hung out the entire meeting, and that's why he's here right now, I've spoken to George and I've spoken to Nikki. And in the intervening period, what I would like to do is let the businesses continue to operate as they have since the pandemic was over. As we go through this time of study, as we go through this time of collaboration, and what will be most likely change to the outdoor dining ordinance. That said, we're not going to be issuing notices of violation for those who have encroached within their private areas for the tables and chairs that they have now. The tables and chairs that they have now. Via the task force, I think that we've arrived at a very good place as far as these establishments have not had noise complaints in the near past. The collaboration is really occurring between the adjacent residents and the businesses as well. And the work effort that we're about to, if you authorize staff to do so, embark upon could change, as I said, the outdoor dining ordinance in private areas.
Into what we don't know.
Into what we don't know. So essentially, as a business decision, as an operating decision, the strategy would be, allow what's there now to remain there, meaning just tables and chairs, no expansion of music, no expansion of anything else. And the benefit is really two-pronged. First of all, the businesses are not going to invest time and money to adhere to the code as a result of a notice of violation when that code may change and what they have there may become permitted. And the other half of that is for staff to spend that effort to issue notice of violation to bring these outdoor dining areas into compliance, and then the code changes and they're in compliance. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach here. We would like to actually work on the outdoor hospitality initiative with the chamber within the context of the task force and the stakeholders involved in the OHI is what they're calling it, and arrive at the city commission one voice. That's my goal, one voice as far as the outdoor dining and amendments to the code. George and I have had several conversations. We want to make it simple. We don't want this to be really complicated or convoluted. That's the whole effort that we're undertaking with the code right now, to make it really very understandable. So with that, I'm asking for the City Commission's authorization to proceed, to pluck out the outdoor dining, to proceed with research for a land development code amendment. And I'm informing as an operational matter to the City Commission that we will be enforcing the code upon completion of the code as we adopt it, as we amend the land development code.
Okay, do I have support?
I have a question.
Consensus? Yep.
I have a question. By grandfathering, are we grandfathering some problem issues right now that we're getting a lot of complaints about, and we're just asking for?
I didn't hear her say grandfathering. Did you say grandfathering?
It's sort of a stay.
Well, it's a stay.
It's a stay. It's not
Okay.
grandfathering.
But
I
still,
understand.
yeah,
But, okay, are we staying any current issue where we're getting a lot of complaints and we're going to have an issue with that?
I don't think so, Commissioner. And the reason why I don't think so is
Because
that...
obviously we have to treat everybody fairly, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
We got two situations that are like, there's another side of the picture. I just want to make sure.
Right, and those situations are quiet now, and those businesses and residents are at the table talking. And so that's why I think I can answer you confidently, no. We're not staying a problem that we have right now with complaints in regard to the tables and chairs, right? So, and that's why I think that we're in a really good place to work on this collaboratively. I don't want to poke the beehive and have, everything erupt in dissent again as it was before when we started the task force.
No, I agree. So my second question is, what's the timeline?
Well, I was a very ambitious, I'm going to say 6 months. We're going to need 6 months to work it all the way through, and plus we need to get through season. I need to rely upon a lot of these folks to come to the table, and they're really busy right now. We'll be working, toward this land development code amendment, which is really the next part too, is that the task force has kind of completed the first segment of their work, where we've created a small working group, which is 5 people, I think. I'm on that working group, to develop the next steps and put them before the task force, which will be meeting again on November 28th as a group. So we're moving forward. I'm excited, actually, but we just need to address this component.
Any other questions before I ask for consensus?
I do.
Yep.
My main question was concerning the time limit of this, and I discussed that before with the city manager. And so as long as we do that within that 6 months, that I think it's a good quality approach after thinking about it. We're not rewarding somebody for having overstepped. We're just saying, hey, we're just going to take a break. We are in season. Let's not mess with this. But let's have an answer within the 6 months, so that, and then I'm okay with that.
And work collaboratively, yes.
If that's where we're going, then I was fine with that. So as long as it's within that 6 months.
Well, my question would be, on the noise ordinance, did it fairly meet the test of being, are you doing anything with the noise ordinance?
So, no. We discussed the noise ordinance quite a few times. Outdoor dining as it relates to noise, it's a very, tight bond, if you will. But that said, the general consensus in the task force was not to touch the noise ordinance. And so, and it was interesting because that was on both sides, of the aisle, if you will. We did get public input quite a bit that they feel that we need to up the decibel level and that type of thing. I informed the task force that it would not be staff's recommendation to amend the noise ordinance. But ultimately, it's the city commission's decision.
I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
I wouldn't either.
Pandora's box.
Been there, done that. It was hard enough to get approved, and it was a negotiation, just like what you're doing now, you know?
So I just wondered about that, and while you're pulling out the land development with outdoor dining, so, and we have a stay, sort of you're staying, you know, where you are now until you can address that. So if there, will the noise ordinance still be
Enforced?
enforced?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I think everybody should maybe understand that distinction.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you have anything?
Nope.
I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your good work in this and your continued staying on top of this. I know it's not normally maybe in your purview, but I absolutely appreciate it because I think it was necessary.
Yeah.
It really was necessary, especially since we all agreed that we would not attend, so that it wouldn't become a political back and forth and that kind of thing. We said to you, as our top person, you know, so hopefully that showed, wasn't that we didn't care, that wasn't why we weren't there. No, we wanted it to be,
Third party.
we really wanted you to do it, and you to bring your sensibilities, and you to bring the facilitator, and you're a certified planner, or you're a planner. And you understand all, you know, the kinds of things they're talking about.
I do.
Because
George
that's
was at
your-
every meeting,
Right.
and as was, Bob was at most meetings. And, you know, on that note too, Mayor, thank you for allowing me to move freely about the cabin on this. And
I think we need to continue to let you do that.
yeah, I've made some new acquaintances, new relationships, friends, and, you know, everybody came in there, I wouldn't say, you know, with an agenda, including me, you know, to get everybody together at the table, but everybody wanted to represent their own interests, and they heard everybody else and had an open mind. It was a really amazing thing, I think.
Good.
So, yeah.
Well, good.
May I make just a quick
Sure.
comment? Very good point, Mayor. And we all had access to the city manager during this process, so it wasn't like.
Oh, we heard everything.
We heard what we wanted to hear, and we heard what we didn't necessarily want to hear, maybe, but we were all updated. and kept up
Absolutely,
to speed.
Yeah, we didn't just skip it.
No,
There was a method to our madness, if you will.
you've all had the minutes of every meeting.
Right?
Read them.
Right, and so thank you.
Thank you.
Obviously, you know this is important, and I know you'll be looking at space versus parking as well when you're looking at this?
Yes.
Okay. And then your next item is the fat, oil, and grease?
Yes, so on this particular item, and this is every bit as important as the task force, it genuinely is. So we were notified by our wastewater treatment plant that there had been some illegal dumping into our wastewater system. And that was in the form of fat, probably some fat or oil or anything like that, through the grease trap at a restaurant somewhere in the city of Dunedin. It takes 5-6 hours to flow from there to the water treatment plant. Arrived in the morning over a couple of weekends, a large volume, which could shut down our water treatment plant, our wastewater treatment plant. I'm sorry.
Could have.
Could have. It did not.
Not could,
It
but
could
still.
Yeah, it did not. So two things happened, and first of all, I want to say this to anybody who's watching. We alerted the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office and asked them, especially in the course of the evening, keep an eye on the restaurants in the back of the house of the restaurant and that type of a thing, to see if there's any truck there that's doing any sort of pumping. Please, you know, ask them what they're doing, look at the manifest, that type of a thing, and they are on the lookout. That said, we do have in our code that it is illegal to put anything that in the wastewater treatment system that would damage it, but we don't have enough teeth. And so Nikki and I together are asking for your authorization to draft a fog ordinance, which would put teeth in terms of a violation for anybody that's pumping out illegally into our wastewater treatment system. This is outside of Nikki's retainer, outside of her purview, in those terms, so we need authorization from you all to draft the ordinance.
Well, and thank you for that, city manager. Actually, under our contract, and the city manager's being, very informative and upfront with you all, because you just started a new fiscal year, and under your contract, if it's within the approved budget, she does have the authority explicitly to authorize the work. But we wanted to bring it to your attention because between the fog ordinance, the sign code, potentially, the outdoor dining work. We just want you all to know all the different things that are coming up and in the queue. And so, but thank you for that.
See.
But yes, but that will be hourly.
Right.
We've already tried to begin working with Jennifer on getting some estimates, just so that we're benchmarking, so that she's able to budget and plan. We're able to come back and have discussions at different points if needed. So that's what we are seeking your approval for today.
Absolutely.
What's our timeline to get it back?
6 months? No. I bet we could do it very
Ordinance?
quickly, because there are ordinances in place already that we don't have to reinvent the
we
wheel.
can drum from, but it depends a little bit on, and we've talked about, a couple different decision points that could be made during the process about how long or short it might take, and we'll work with the city's subject matter experts, though, to try to keep this as, simple as possible. And that's all.
You don't want to give me a time?
I can't give you a time as I sit here today, Commissioner.
No, I mean, I think it's important because,
Yeah.
we can't have people doing that and not have some teeth.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, and can I just clarify, you didn't feel like it was a local business, you thought it was somebody coming into our city
I think so, yeah.
doing that dump?
Well, our wastewater guys feel that, they have a pretty good idea of, they know exactly who does this service throughout the county. So, yeah.
So you mean someone came in, picked up the grease?
And dumped it.
And then instead of taking it to some receptacle or whatever you're supposed to do with this grease trap stuff, they just dumped it in our water?
They pump it in, right. They pump it into a grease trap, and if they pump too much in the grease trap, it overflows into the wastewater treatment system.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So it could have been a mistake?
No. No.
Not that much.
No, there was a lot. It's not a mistake.
So it was intentional?
Right.
Okay.
Just make sure it doesn't just have teeth, it has fangs.
Good.
Fangs, I like that.
Did you hear that, Nikki?
Fangs.
Commissioner Gal wants fangs.
That was last night.
Very good.
This is one of the auto places, is it? With their oil and,
We don't think so.
okay.
As Jennifer mentioned, it seems that there's some criminal activity and some other things going on, but without the, but no, not to my knowledge. We haven't pinpointed that discharge.
Okay, your next item?
I think this one's
Breach
me?
of water contract,
Okay.
is that what this is?
So, well, the city, as you all may be aware, as a result of the fire that occurred in the wastewater treatment plant, has already engaged through its insurance through the Florida League of Cities to pursue different claims related to that incident. But in addition, Dr. Smalling and her team would also like to pursue the contractor for their role. The lawyers who are representing the city on the issues involving the insurance in the Florida League of Cities are already dialed in to the subject matter, to the details on this highly technical subject matter. And so they have offered to essentially add on the breach of contract claim. So Teresa and I wanted to bring that to you for two reasons. One, it will be hiring a new attorney, but it will likely be under, again, what the city manager can approve. But we still wanted to be upfront with you and make sure that you knew this would be, sort of tagging on those services, because the league will not pay for pursuing breach of contract or pursuing any claims. They will only defend. So to get that in place, Dr. Smalling brought up that it may be more efficient to use that firm, and I agree. They're willing to do the work as well. The two items are, so first to engage them because it will be outside of the agreement, but also because they're currently and still pursuing certain work under the league, it will be to, basically waive and accept that you understand they're representing the league at the same time, and you consent to them representing the city simultaneously. So that's just a nature of our bar rules, so that basically that the league and you, as far as I can tell, your interests are aligned in this matter. So it's not even a technical conflict. It's just a consent that you're aware that they also are representing the Florida League of Cities. So I don't need any, again, I don't need a vote, but I wanted you to know that, and I will make sure that the, contract conforms to your standard form and it's approved, it's signed off on by us as approving for the city, the contract with this other law firm. But if I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on the scope of the representation. I don't know candidly, if you have any questions about, the facts. I don't know if that would be appropriate to discuss in this setting since it's currently, potentially going to go in litigation, but also I might not know them because this is another lawyer that's been dialed in and working on this under the insurance for the city.
Commissioner?
So maybe you said this and I missed
Oh.
it, but is it
I should have
recoverable?
said the name. It potentially is, there are attorney's fees recovered or recoverable in the contract, but those cut both ways. So it could be recoverable, or the opposite, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I'm sorry, I should have said the name of the law firm, though. It's Dean Ringers, Morgan and Lawton, PA. They're in Orlando. Like I said, I've spoken with the attorney who would be handling the matter, and I do think that the city would be able to leverage efficiencies in using their firm.
Are they specialists?
They are, they really do a lot of work in this area, and just in the few minutes that we talked together, had a very good grasp of the issues and the understanding of the, needs of the city. They do litigation work specifically for other local governments throughout the state, so I was confident that they have the skill set that you would need to.
And so you don't want to, I think you're trying to send out these beep, like, don't talk about this, right? The.
Oh, I don't.
No. I mean, I was really teasing.
Oh.
But, I mean, it was you're sending out the red light.
We're all tired from this
I don't know.
meeting. A lot of talking going on.
But, so I guess, then, and it's inappropriate to ask the cause of action, correct?
To ask what's that?
What the cause of action would be. Is that inappropriate?
I don't know if they'll evaluate that for the city and get that. Obviously the one that has been discussed and would be explicitly in your agreement would be to analyze and give the city legal advice about whether or not to pursue a breach of contract claim.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay, so with that, I'll go ahead and prepare that agreement and get it signed by the city manager. Thank you all.
Holiday party?
Yeah. November 18th. At the Comedy Center.
Yeah?
Yeah, November 18th. I'm not sure what else I was supposed to say other than.
Well, and I'm really glad that everybody was able to work out their schedules for that Friday night.
Yeah.
Because that really worked out well because you get into, and I know it's early, and I realize it's before Thanksgiving and all of that, but later in the month, we just have too many departments that are working too many hours of overtime for all those events, and then to try to throw that in, it's taking away from their families, and I don't think that's fair to anybody, any of us either, because it's taken away from our families. I also wanted to, I'm sure I don't know if you've seen this or not, but I thought it was really cool that the city has opened up our holiday party to our variable on-demand part-time employees as well.
That's very nice.
So I thought that was,
Very nice.
really, really nice. Thank you. Anything else that you had to update us on?
Nothing.
Okay, does anybody have anything to go to the city manager about
Now
for
what?
questions? Questions for the city manager on any other items?
No.
I do. Just real quick.
Yeah, I've never even heard you say that. So
Well,
you obviously had something, so you made a category.
Well, no, there's times under city manager update I ask
know,
her
I'm
stuff that
No, it's
she
okay.
wasn't talking about.
Just heckling you.
So many of you probably watched, as we all do, the LPA meeting last Wednesday night.
Yes.
And so I just think it's really important for Jennifer to tell us what they've already got in the works so that we're all updated.
Right. And so the subject was at the LPA meeting that two members of the LPA are going to be term limited at the end of this year, and then 4 members, I think, in December of 2023. And
3 and 3.
Yeah, 3 and 3.
3 and 3.
Okay, 3 and 3. And the issue at the LPA level was that it's a highly technical board with a lot of background. And they were concerned about folks getting on that didn't have that expertise or that background, and can continue the good work of the local planning agency. I am cognizant of that, and as the mayor had said, I am a planner. I know exactly what the LPA, or I was, before I became this. But anyway, so and I have had discussions with George, and I actually spoke to Mr. Massaro at Commissioner Kine's party in terms of what we plan to do to onboard new members onto the local planning agency. And the alternates are already in place and attending meetings on a regular basis as well, and on the dais when they're needed, when they a member is out. And so they are coming up to speed on the LPA and the activities of the LPA. In conversations with George, he has, and several times in his career, onboarded new members of boards, planning boards, and that type of thing. And we are putting together a kind of a more enhanced onboarding where we spend time on the code, land development code, what the land development code means, the sections of the code we traditionally use, the types of applications that they'll see. And then go on to the comprehensive plan as well, because the LPA is deeply involved in the comprehensive plan as well, and adoption of amendments to the comprehensive plan. And talk to them a little bit. Nikki would talk to them about sunshine and ethics and those types of things. So we do have a really good onboarding plan for the LPA, and the Code Enforcement Board would be the same because they're another technical board. That said, throughout my career, I've worked with many planning and zoning boards and local planning agencies, and you do get new residents on them. They do turn over. They are a citizen advisory board to all of you. We don't anticipate that they're going to have the depth of knowledge that they would need always, when they first are on the board. But you're supposed to be seeing their recommendations from the residents' point of view. The code does stipulate that there are certain expertise that they need, and I think that a lot of those applicants that we're seeing for the LPA have those expertise as well. So we do have a plan. We are aware moving forward, and the good service of the LPA that we have now, I don't want to say anything about that other than they have been a very active, very educated board, but that we can educate new members of that board, and it can continue to provide the City Commission with really good, solid recommendations on actions before them.
The other thing they mentioned too was that the code for the LPA didn't mention what the qualifications are.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go back and read it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Yeah.
pointing it out, saying at some point you can go look at it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch it to the very, very end, but I watched it last night because I'd heard about it. And and my takeaway from what Mr. Massaro was saying was not that he didn't understand that the average everyday person's important on there, because I think he called it a common sense person.
Yeah, he did.
The average everyday common sense person, and as well as the expertise. So, to me, I think the bigger issue is you lose 3 people that have been on there a long time, and then you lose 3 more that have been on, and it's a 7-member board. So I do think some of what you're talking about, it's important to think through. All our boards and committees are important, but we all know, before we have big development things, which is keeping our charm is one of the most important things to our citizens, that we watch those. So I just think, there's a reason to be a little more hyper-focused on making sure that, we've got a great process for that turnover and, and how the committee evolves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think that one of the things that I would also take part in the onboarding for the new LPA members, and one of the things that I would convey to them is the last 3-4 years of land development code amendments the City Commission has approved, as pertain to the built environment, and so that they understand the Commission's point of view and the direction of the City Commission as well, with some of the activities that you've undertaken.
I think it's interesting because actually on that board, the chair and the vice chair actually elude that because, I think, Diane's gained a lot of knowledge over the time, but of course Dan comes from the architecture world. So yeah, it's interesting and it breeds great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, I just think it's that focus of when you lose 6 out of 7 members quickly, and it's such a critical board to our development patterns. You know, we just need to be focused on.
Yeah.
I agree, and I appreciated what Dan was doing, because he just really cares.
Yeah.
We all know that. He just
Yeah, I didn't
really
think he
cared.
was trying to,
No, he just cared, really cared.
he just wants an update on what are we anticipating
Yeah, he
to
wants to
do.
make sure we're aware and that.
And I mean, I guess in a normal committee environment, that probably wouldn't come up. But he has been there so long, and most of them have been there, so they have a lot of ownership.
Yeah, both of them do.
You know, there, and so, you know, when I talked to Jennifer about it yesterday, I was just happy to know that we were already working on it, so that's the positive thing, and I mean, I do know that Dan knows that, so.
Yeah, but I'll just tag on to what Commissioner Turner said too. When you think about it, if you're sitting in Dan's seat, where, you know, really, you've had a long-time chair and a long-time vice chair too.
Yeah.
And
Robert's
basically,
rules,
they're
how do you
sitting
do
there, and
it?
not only are they going away, well, everybody's going away, so who's the next leadership level? I mean, who takes over the leadership? I mean, that's when we do term limits. I mean, you got to be thinking about that, right?
That's why
So-
we're supposed to be rotating those things.
Well, but again.
That is a good
goes-
reason to do it.
But that goes back to not everybody wants to do that role.
I get
So
it.
again, you know.
I get it, but you can't
It's
out
its
of a
own thing.
7-member board.
But I do want to say, because I know Dan's had several conversations with me too, and he cares deeply
Oh, of
about
course he
his
does.
community and where we're going.
Absolutely.
And, you know, so he brings it from a really good place of the heart.
Yep. Okay, anything else? there?
I just have a few things.
Oh, wait, no, I was.
Is it?
No,
where
I was
are we?
jumping. I'm going to commission comments. Go right ahead, Vice Mayor. Your turn.
Okay, I just did want to say that it's Art Harvest, you know, this weekend. And November 4th, this Friday, is the holiday show begins at the DFAC. And November 6th is the 50+2 celebration at the History Museum. So, you know, we're heading into that really crazy season.
Yeah, were you just going to their website to get the tickets? Because I need to get tickets for that. For their
What are you
50
talking
plus two, the Dunedin Historical.
I'm a little confused about where I give my money. I called, I think Sharon Painter, I called her to see if she could direct me.
It sounds like it's going to be a great event. Definitely wanna-
So, and that's going to be in that area between Blur and,
Yeah.
you know. So,
What was that date again? I'm sorry.
Sunday.
Sunday night.
It's Sunday. Sunday afternoon, actually. Well, Sunday night.
November.
I'm going,
Out of pocket, though, isn't it?
okay.
I can't even think about another
It's a 70s
Sunday.
theme. Get your 70s clothes ready.
Yeah, I don't have any.
It's a 70s theme, but it is the 50+2, so, of the, and one other small little thing, you know, I do thoroughly intend to thank everybody for my wonderful party, so I'm a little belated, and I'm working on it.
Honey, you were traveling and then you had your son came in and
But,
this is a
yeah.
busy time.
Yes, but no one should ever be too busy to say thank you. So.
Okay, you're thanking.
Well, you did.
No. I need to do, you know, my own little
Oh, your
ways.
other thing.
Oh, your other thinking.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate that. All right, anybody else have anything under commission comments?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, we said it in the beginning, but I'm going to reiterate our staff. So I think we talked so much about infrastructure and all these other things today, and I'm just going to restate our rec and parks people, like, they're amazing. You know, again, you know, got to have flushing toilets,
Quality
got to
of
have
life.
clean water, got to have good roads, you got to have, you know, good multimodal. But I'll tell you what, for the quality of life, I mean, they just make so much happen in our city that is why people want to be here. So, you know, they do. So I wanted to say that. I wanted to say, I was just gonna, if you hadn't mentioned, I was gonna ask you about the Dunedin Historical event. And then also, I wanted to say that I was just, well, not newly elected, but nominated, probably soon to be an official board member, elected, well, treasurer, secretary for the
Executive board.
For the executive board, thank you, for Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. Nothing.
And I just got the same for Forward Pinellas.
Awesome, way to go. So, hey.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So you're both on the executive board. Very,
Executive board.
very cool. Congratulations.
Yep. Okay, anybody else?
Can you just give us, just all of us have a quick update on the golf course? How we're doing?
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. So we, first of all, the general manager, we had several really good applications. And we did a Zoom meeting. We have a gentleman who will be coming to Dunedin. We've set up he's going to play around with John Falcone. He's going to meet with the board, and then he's going to meet with the membership as well. And this is when I come back from vacation, which is a week after next.
with you?
No, I wouldn't.
That might discourage
I'm not going to play with the pro and a general manager of golf. No, I'd rather play on my own.
Don't do that.
Yeah, right, I know.
Yeah, right. As far as the transition plan goes, we have scoped out the design. We have 3 very good companies, 5 that submitted for the design for the golf course, 3 that they shortlisted, and I think that those interviews are going on this week for those 3 as well. So good applications for general manager, good applications for the design for the golf course, or for the proposal. We've been meeting with the board on a monthly basis. They're happy with where we are as far as the transition goes, and we're communicating very well. So it's going well. Thank you for asking. I haven't talked to you about that in a while.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Cake.
Cake. Oh, yeah, cake. Cake.
Cake.